Alexis, you got one of them letters too from the Corps of
I
Engineers.
did.
About,
the,
I was gonna say I got one.
their master
I was
plan
gonna,
that they were doing.
I showed Al Jill, I was gonna show you too. But you
I'll read it if you don't mind.
Yeah,
I'll read it as part of the
whenever. Yeah,
correspondence. I left mine at home.
And that, they brought that down, which is.
Okay, Aljo, this was stuff from last week, and we still have a few more. Somewhere, I think I made you a copy of that agreement that they signed. Just haven't quite got to it yet.
There was just their minutes from before. You can take that home.
Thank you.
So it shows where we're at.
Thank you.
Now, I'm gonna go to the meeting the 19th, which is next week, Tuesday.
Here's the agreement.
But I haven't been back because I was out of town last week.
first
The
one
week
that
before, it snowed out, so.
Yeah.
I didn't have it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I think this is about that same thing there.
Okay.
Just like a formal letter telling you guys that.
Too much paper.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were gonna have all this paper.
Well, yes.
I'm just joking. I knew there would be a lot of paper.
I think it will be easier when we move and we can file some of it so that no one has to haul it back and forth.
It'd be good to file, yeah, so if we have a question about something 6 months ago, you got it in a file, you know.
I guess it's 10. I will call the meeting to order. If you'd like to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For correspondence, let's see, let's start with the bills. We have another labor for Lincoln Park Manor from Precision Electrical Contractors, but it doesn't say what for. And then street plumbing for Lincoln Park Manor, service call for clogged sink in the assisted living kitchen, $148.27.
That for replacing the ballast.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Replacing a ballast with $65 labor there. They must have had a ballast, I assume, because I don't see that we purchased it. We each received a letter from the Army Corps of Engineers, and it says that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is in the process of revising the Wilson Lake Master Plan dated November 1984. The revision would bring the master plan up to date with current policy and regulations, as well as take into account current and projected visitation and recreation trends. The master plan is the strategic land use management document that guides the comprehensive management and development of all project recreational, natural, and cultural resources throughout the life of the project. The master plan guides efficient and cost-effective management, development, and use of project lands. It is a vital tool for the responsible stewardship and sustainability of project resources for the benefit of the present and future generations. The Corps is providing interested parties an opportunity to offer recommendations on issues to be considered during the master plan revision process. A workshop is being held to solicit comments on the master plan April 4th, 2019, 3 to 5 p.m. at the Wilson Lake Visitor Center. If you can't make the workshop, please send any comment to their office. And so I do think at least one of us should go.
You read that, right?
Yeah.
I'll keep
I
that.
said April 4th,
You want me
right?
just to keep this one then, Alexis, this letter?
Your own?
That's
Yes,
it.
please. I have one at home.
Okay. That's April.
4th, 3 to 5 p.m. I do think one or all of us should go.
I wonder if we should, I guess we just spoke about it here in a minute, if we should notify the public that if they got any input on that lake.
Yeah.
To be there for the meeting.
We have a letter to us dated March 5th And it says, I have previously submitted an application for the position of EMS director. I sent a resume, and I've noticed I had an error on it. I'm sending you this new updated resume. This person, her name is Sharon Meyer. So we have an updated application to go with her old one. She wants
Is that
this.
for HR?
It's for EMS.
Oh, EMS, okay.
Mm-hmm. So I'll give that to you, that you can file that with the current applicants. Where did you get this?
Oh, Joe had that, I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, it came in
Oh, okay. Extra
Mail.
mail.
to me, you know.
Water main break rates in the USA and Canada, comprehensive study. 12th Judicial District is going to be doing a, what are they calling it? A facility assessment, I believe. There was a letter sent out from Judge Cudney to the 12th Judicial District for the agenda. Lincoln County Courthouse will be 8:45 a.m. through lunch, or to lunch, I should say, on March 13th. I'm gonna write that down. That's Wednesday. Do either of you want to attend that?
It would be impossible for me to be here at that.
What day is it and what time?
It's the 13th, starting in the morning.
This week?
Yeah, 8:45, Wednesday.
Well,
I was
I'll
maybe-
try to.
There's a legislative talk in Topeka that I was maybe going to go to that day. That's
Would
my,
be.
yeah.
This is 8:45.
Mm-hmm.
Let me write that down here. I may try to come here.
That would be good, I think, if one of us was represented. I would do it, but I would like to do my...
8:45. Here, let me write on here. And Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's up in the courthouse or in here?
Yeah,
or in here, probably.
They're doing the facility assessment tour, so I think they're going to, well, it says the sheriff will be here. They're going to talk about security measures.
Sure.
and, you know.
That's fine. I'd like to be interested in it. I'll try to make it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They're gonna meet, I think their agenda thing was to kind of meet, the economic development is using this room, so they'll be down in,
Her room?
the extension, yeah, I'll set
Oh,
it up.
Oh, there, okay.
The extension
Our new
office, the old one where we're going to go, Commissioner? Okay.
So I'll set it up, so when you do come, that's gonna work.
Go there. Okay.
Since we don't have anything on the agenda right now, maybe we could talk about that for 1 minute. What do we want to do with that room? I was in the courtroom, and I looked at that table that's up there. Where did that come from? The long one?
It was back in the storage room.
I think we can use that.
I don't think three of you guys,
I do. Did you look at it? Did you go from the back?
yeah, but if you would set a chair at it, I think you guys would be elbow to elbow.
I
Tighter
think
than
it's
you are
longer
here.
than this.
No, it's not. Let me go out.
I'm going to have to measure it because,
It looks deceiving.
okay.
Um,
I didn't pace it off or anything, but I looked at it and I thought, that definitely looks usable. But otherwise, I think we should just go with what we talked about, the one that's in there.
I mean, I could go get a tape measure and measure it really quick and see.
I think we should figure it out.
I kind of put three chairs up to it, and you would like literally be on top of each other. Which is probably okay for the two on the ends, but the person that's in the center, if it got to be a clean subject.
Well, I think if it's at least this long, this is plenty of room. But if it's not this long, I just can see what you're saying. But maybe my eyes were deceiving me. I just took a glance at it.
It's, yeah.
Here, you can have that. That's the agenda for that day. The portion about
It's on here,
Okay.
so you can have that one.
Okay.
Right here, what you just gave us is, it's right in the back there. Alexis.
Oh, I didn't know everyone got one.
Yeah,
I
the
thought we
next
had one
page.
copy.
Next
Okay.
page, yeah,
I
so
see
you
it.
can just keep that. Thank you.
Yes. That seems to conclude the correspondence. Did either of you read this Lincoln County gravel article in the paper about Ellsworth County?
No.
It's a little deceiving. It says,
Where was that at? What paper?
It says,
No.
an alternative proposal by High Plains Sand Incorporated of Canopolis to remedy issues at the base of an Ellsworth County road was favorably received by the Ellsworth County Commissioners Monday during their weekly meeting. The company's vice president, Todd Wacker, suggested Lincoln County gravel be applied for demonstration purposes to a portion of 21st Road south of Skates Cemetery. So it's coming through High Plains Sand, and I'm wondering if they're purchasing it from APAC.
No, they're purchasing, they have a lease on a gravel pit in Lincoln County.
Do you know where that is?
I have a sneaking suspicion I know where it's at, but I don't know for sure.
I don't like gravel. I thought was not good because of clay.
Well, that's what we've been told by our own.
Okay, it's 7.5 feet, so
Okay,
it's
it's
right
not quite
here.
as long.
Hello.
I mean, we can move these tables in. Ladonna also said she had some white tables. I don't still know if they're 8 foot.
I would just stick with what's over there. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't work.
I just gotta get a tabletop ordered.
I would like to paint over there.
Paint?
I'll do it. Although,
What was you wanting to do now?
well, she was measuring that table that was in the courtroom, but it's a little shorter than this, so that probably is not very conducive. But
Was you wanting a bigger one or a smaller one or what?
no, we can use the one that's over there with it had the storage underneath. You know,
Well, the trouble is,
that
there's no
top.
room for our legs, but they're going to expand it and make a bigger top, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we
we
can
could
sit
just
under.
order
And I don't want to have my legs crushed.
Who can
up
we
there.
assign to do that, to order the countertop?
Well,
Can we get
I
John Paul
asked
on
John
it?
Paul to go up to the center and see if they'd come and measure. And they said with the temperature and stuff,
Who?
at the home center, I thought they ordered pieces in, but it sounds like they make them themselves.
Oh, they can cut countertop?
I don't know. That's what they made it sound like. And
They probably could.
Deidre
Well,
said something about it might be a problem with laying the laminate. Or we can go, I'd like to give them a chance, but we could go to Menards or Lowe's and actually order whatever size we want. It's a special order, we have to pay for it, but
Wonder if they can do a special order up here. But you said they'd
it
make
sounds
it.
like they're making it.
Really?
I don't know.
Well, if they made a good one, I guess it wouldn't matter.
John Paul went and talked to
We
them.
need to talk with Vicki more probably about that before exactly what we want to do, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know if John
How
Paul.
about I just talk
Huh?
to her myself?
Why don't you?
Because
Because
It's
you know
hard
what
to get us-
you know what we want more than he does. So if you don't mind, I appreciate that. Yeah.
and then if they can't, then I'll go get a bid from a couple places in Saliva if they feel like they can't. So, okay.
That sounds good.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. We just decided the tabletop over there we were going to get a new and we decided to have Don was going to talk to him about because they supposedly make their top and we didn't know for sure. You can order one like a Menards or Lowe's, but we thought she's going to check here exactly what they got and how to do it.
I just assumed they ordered them in, but they said something to John Paul about they didn't know that by the time they got the laminate and got it laid whether or not it would stick very well and it'd be wider pieces. So, which makes it sound like
They're fabricating one themselves.
yeah. So I'll ask.
Well,
Maybe
for
they can just
special
special order.
size, that might not be a bad idea. I mean, if they think they can do it. But what does the weather have to do with it unless they have to do it outside?
I think it's because it's cold,
Yeah.
getting it to stick, and maybe they do that in their shop, and
Mm.
might not be warm. Okay, so Randy, you said you didn't get a handbook, so here's your handbook. I'm going to have you sign your.
Oh, okay.
Well, I thought in the back is your handbook receipt page, so if you would sign that, you
Sign
received
what?
it. The very back page, pull it out and sign it for me and give it back to me. So at the same time, I don't know if you guys ever got
I got
handbooks,
one.
but I'm going to give it to you anyways. I think we should probably start tackling one little bit at a time.
Mine's actually in the commission room right now.
So since we just went ahead and made some new
Thanks.
ones. And you don't have to sign the receipt. We probably have it. And today's the 11th.
What's the date
The
today?
11th.
Yeah. I got this head cold, so I'm about half here.
19. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. last week you were discussing this, and I was thinking, I never really hardly looked
Yeah.
through it, so I better do that.
Yeah.
That's why I was requesting one.
Yeah.
You should know what you, before you start discussing something, probably ought to know something about it.
Yes, yes.
Might help.
Okay, let's do the minutes from last week. While I'm reading this, I do think we need to update Mr. Lawless about some of the discussion we had about the EMS director position. Since that's going to be in the near future decision. And the discussion about the policy about vehicles, he needs an update on that as well. Dawn, had you happened to look up the USPS website to see how to do the mailer?
I started on the website and we need to go down and talk. Hannah didn't have time. I'd asked her if she could and she just didn't get there. But there are so many different zip codes and it still doesn't encompass the entire county, but I don't know if that matters. And I didn't know that there was 8 routes of 6, so you have to go on it online and pick out each route. And I think I was at the right spot. And I started to do that, and then it was like, well, I don't really know which zip codes you guys want to encompass. Do you want to encompass the core, or do you want to encompass even the ones that go into
I think we should do all of them because a lot of those people have land in the county, even if they're not voters in the county. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if the zip code extends into the other county where they're registered to vote and they can't vote here, they still have land here potentially. So they should at least know what's going on. So I think we should send that out as soon as possible.
Okay.
This is for those open positions.
For the open positions, and we're going to do that with the. Were we going to do that with the
Your
nursing home?
nursing home. Well,
public update.
that was in the paper.
I saw that.
Yeah, that'd be good probably, because not everybody gets the Lincoln paper or the
So
Silver.
you want it combined together?
Can
as
we?
one?
If you could,
Well, I could do that. Okay, does it need to be a postcard or can it be paper?
No. It can be a trifold paper, just like a letter.
Okay, so if we got if I took that you had, and I know the back page had like address, but then we could insert another page, I guess.
Mhm.
I'm assuming it's based upon weight, though.
I would
I'm
think
not
so.
sure.
Do you know how that works?
What?
How do you know how it works if you're mailing out,
A
the
flyer.
trifold,
Yeah.
you probably can only do one paper because it's based on weight, potentially. I honestly don't.
Oh, you
I
mean
would
put
do-
two together, you would
Yeah.
want to do?
Yeah.
You probably could. You
I think
need
as
to
long
talk
as
to,
we-
I used
Deborah,
the
Leanne down
cardstock
there.
when I did it. I used the actual thin cardstock and they took it for the same. It's ends up being 17 cents or something like that.
and also, we
Maybe we
may,
could do double paper.
we could maybe able to put on one side the, openings for the
Yeah, I think
positions, on the other side,
this would
the
be
letter that you put to maybe on one
Well,
sheet.
mine's two pages, so I think you'd have to do the mail out with where they stamp it to go
Address.
to the address. The inside would be our notification of the open positions. Then if we shoved another one in there, it would be the front and back of the nursing home issue.
Well, that'd be two sheets then. You
Yeah.
could talk, I would call down here, they'd tell you best how to do it.
Yeah. I
Leanna or Deb Meyer.
And do you want a price first, or do you just want us to, if we could go?
No, I think we just need to do it as soon as possible.
I don't think it's too expensive for a flyer.
No. And I don't see anything that needs changed or amended in the minutes. Randy, did you have a suggestion for the minutes?
No, I was gonna maybe update Al Joe, is that,
Well, first
but he can read here,
I
but,
would entertain a motion to approve them, so we can,
yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
March 4th, 2019.
Yeah, for March 4th, 2019, so I'm sorry.
I second. Any further discussion? Those in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Staying.
2 aye, 1 abstain, motion carries. Okay. So I'll start back with the policy on vehicles. It was brought to our attention that the position of emergency management was utilizing travel time to and from home to work as part of being clocked in. And so Randy and I did come to the conclusion in our discussion that that would not be acceptable based on what we've read as far as federal guidelines, just our own policies within the county, what other people are doing with their county vehicles. It just doesn't really seem to be any benefit to the county to pay someone from their door to the courthouse. What we did say was if that particular position is taking the county vehicle to an event, to a training, to an event that they may be called out to go to as far as an emergency, then that would be fine if their time starts at home. I did get an email regarding this issue, and I will share some thoughts on that. Go ahead.
I also I contacted Bud, like Aljo had asked, and he suggested that I contact Susan Lane with Fair Labor and Standards. So I have an email from Susan,
Okay.
who talks about all of the different regs in regards to travel time and what is considered. So like if he is going to, you guys can decide from there. We'll have to decide on whether or not the vehicle is exempt or not exempt. But it talks about call outs, and she can't help us with whether or not the vehicle is exempt per IRS guidelines because she's not the IRS. She said the IRS would have to be contacted for that. Jennifer made a suggestion, and so when I talked to Bud told me talk to Susan Lane first and ask for her to make an opinion, and then we send an unbiased opinion. So when I talked to her on the phone, she said, just tell me the gist of what you want, and I'll get you all the regs that applies to it. And then I asked her about the vehicle usage, and she said she couldn't answer that question, that's an IRS question. However, when she did call me, she wanted me to make sure that you guys were aware and you actually read page 2 where it's starred. I started it for you guys. She said that might help you in making your decision on whether or not the vehicle is exempt or not exempt, even though it's more about time travel. But she said whenever they go out and they audit a county, whether or not their time from their work in a county-owned vehicle is an issue, they always go to, this is their section right out of their handbook that they go to. And she said she would think that the same would apply for whether or not the vehicle is exempt or not exempt, is based upon the number of calls that he actually went out on. So she said, give me an example. And I said, I have no idea. I would think maybe 10 at the most. We really haven't had that many emergencies. Weather watching isn't necessarily considered an emergency, it's considered a function of the job. And so I didn't know that. And so she said, then you would weigh that based upon the number of days that they actually use the vehicle to determine whether or not it's at the sole discretion of the county or at the sole, or not discretion, but the sole convenience of the county, convenience and benefit of the employee. And so she said maybe what you should do is ask your commissioners to request the number of calls that he called out on and what the purpose was of the call, so that you could determine whether or not that was truly an emergency, or whether that was him just going to a meeting, or him going to a training session, or him as part of his job. And I said, okay. Then Jennifer suggested that maybe what we do, and I did talk to Bud again on Friday about it, is ask Bud, pose a question to him and ask him to review the job description as it stands and to tell us, make an opinion as to whether or not the job description, something in the job description indicates that he would be considered a safety officer. And I asked Bud if he would be willing to do that. He said he felt like that was maybe not necessarily something that he should do because he represents the county, but that he could have a member of his law firm do it that specializes in it. So I don't know how far you guys want to go, or if you guys want to just make the decision yourself. But I just don't believe there's anything, and I've got his job description for you guys to look at. You can take it home and think about it for the week. But I just don't think there's anything in it that says that he must be a member of law enforcement, or a member of a fire department, or a member of a rescue squad, or a member of the ambulance crew. It has to work with them, but it doesn't say he has to be a member of them. But there may be some hidden language that I don't understand. And then Bud said what they would do is they would give you two things. They would give you an opinion, and then if they feel like that job description does consider him that, they will give you ways in which you can change it, or you can choose to leave it like it is. Whatever it is that you guys want to do. But my question is do you want me to pose the question, or would you like to pose the question?
To
the attorney to make an opinion.
I mean, the whole point of having an attorney, yes, is to get an opinion, but ultimately the decision is ours, and we need to take responsibility for it. And I think what we discussed is pretty much accurate, even according to what I'm reading here. There are citations which may exist, citations which may assist, according to Susan Lang. Home to work in an ordinary situation. An employee who travels from home before his regular workday and returns home at the end of the workday is engaged in ordinary home-to-work travel, which is normal incident of employment. This is true whether he works at a fixed location or at different job sites. Normal travel from home to work is not work time. I mean, I can totally agree with that. I don't see how we can make any determination other than that. I have noticed, though, on the time cards for the highway department that some of our employees that with vehicles have gone from home to job site. So we need to make that clear. It's not until you get to the job site that you're actually at work. Yes, you are allowed to use the vehicle that's provided for you, but I think that's clearly on page 2, number B, 31C01B, where the vehicle is used in connection with emergency calls outside of normal working hours. The determination must be made as to whether the use of the vehicle is in fact for the convenience of the employee or primarily for the benefit of the employer. The frequency of emergency calls may indicate for whose convenience or benefit the vehicle is being used. So in the sheriff's department, obviously you have regular issues where they may be called first thing out on their shift where they're going to use that vehicle and go to. That's work time. If the highway department is going out to look at a situation, or the emergency management is going out to assess a situation, that may be considered an emergency call, but that's the vehicle at that point is for the pure benefit of the employee. not to us as the employer. Whereas the sheriff's department is different, or the ambulance is different. That's a benefit to the employer. So this is very clear in my mind, and we kind of discussed not getting paid anyone from home to work site, whether it's the courthouse or a bridge project, or whether it's the courthouse or, you know, some other sort of
And
place.
also, B, there, if it looks like, the way I read it too, is that if there were a lot of calls, I mean, if we had a bigger, say we have a bigger county, more population, and our emergency management person was called a lot from their home, you could almost justify it like a police officer then. But I don't see that here in Lincoln County.
Well, and he clearly stated last week that he wasn't going on all of the calls that the predecessor went on, you know, at
Or
the
that even
time.
exist. Plus, I mean, and in my opinion, his position at that time is not a first responder.
No.
So that's not emergent. It's really an assessment that he's doing, and so that happens. It'd be nice the sooner it happens, the better. But it's not the first responder responsibility that others have. This is very clear under 31C01A. In certain situations, an employee is responsible for a vehicle and its equipment, and for having it at the work site at proper time. The employer may permit the employee to drive the vehicle to and from home. In situations of this type, where the permission is granted for the employee's own convenience and the travel is within the normal commuting distance of the employee's area, time spent in driving is not hours worked. I agree with everything here. I mean, I don't think that we have any special circumstances that we need to address as far as what this is saying.
Currently, the highway department have vehicles, but they don't charge their billing from home to the shop.
No.
They're not supposed to, right? They're supposed to.
I believe that they're charging from the time that they get to the shop and they begin work.
Then if they go out with that vehicle out in the site, that's obviously paid then, but not from home to the shop.
I mean, yeah, the benefit to the employee is to be able to, that you're not required to provide your own personal vehicle for your job.
Right.
So even being able to go home and park the vehicle at home is purely a benefit to the employee. So I don't think his vehicle is exempt in emergency management. Similarly to the highway department. Mr. Wallace, do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know that he should be paying from the time he leaves home.
And
I
what
think
about what about taxing it as a fringe benefit as far as mileage? You do it by mileage, correct?
We don't have any choice, do we?
That's
Well,
what she's
right
addressing.
now, that's what you guys have it exempt as though he is a public safety officer. But when you read the definition of the public safety officer,
It
his
doesn't
position
jive.
doesn't follow in
No,
on
we
it.
do, what are we doing to the highway department?
They
Right.
are taxed.
Their tax is a fringe
So
benefit.
I don't know that there's any difference myself.
Correct. I would agree with that.
I don't see the difference there myself. I mean, there is some advantage for us to have him take that vehicle to his house in case there is a major storm in some part of the county and where he is closer instead of having to come into Lincoln to change vehicles and to do that. I mean, that is our advantage for him, you know. But
that happens
we're
less frequently.
we're paying by giving him a
With
vehicle.
time.
That's, you know.
Right. And that emergency situation that you're referring to happens less frequently than normal travel in that vehicle. So I think one has to outweigh the other. It's more for normal use than it is for emergency use, for sure.
So what I think you guys need to do is, number one, I think you guys need to set what people's hours are. Because that's how we didn't catch it. You know, he made that standpoint, I've been doing this for 4.5 years and it's never been a problem. Well, that's because nobody caught it.
If I may interrupt right there, I did get some feedback. Ladonna was kind of making some comment on what she had either watched on the commission video or read in minutes or something, but she basically said in her opinion, no comp time should be allowed. No hourly wage person should do comp, even her own employees. And she said she agrees that we should pay overtime instead of allowing comp time at all. And then salaried, non-elected officials such as herself should be able to work a 40-hour week, however that works out. And then if they work under, they have to take leave time for the 40, and if they work over, they don't get paid because it's salary. She said holding to an 8-hour day won't work. So she's basically saying she doesn't agree with having a different policy for each. But here's the thing, isn't John Paul hourly?
Yes.
And see, we can't have an hourly maintenance janitorial position that can't do his own 40-hour week schedule. I mean, it's just, we can't say that that's not an exemption. It is an exemption. There's snow removal, there's lawn work to do, things that need done early in the morning before anyone is in the courthouse, things that need to stay late, a reason you may need to stay late afterward. So I don't necessarily agree with the opinion that we can't have separate policies per department, because
You can have separate hours, but identify what their work hours are supposed to be when they're here. And I think if we would talk to Ladonna when she comes here today about that, I don't think that she's saying, like David implied last week, that 8 hours is 8 hours, it doesn't matter when I work the 8 hours. It does, in a sense, matter when you work the 8 hours. I mean, you guys as supervisors should be able to say, this courthouse is open from 8 to 4:30, your working hours should be 8 to 4:30 with a half an hour lunch. Now, will there be times where you were at a meeting, and so some days you may not necessarily be here? Yes. Maybe if the meeting is, because I think what she's trying to say is if we're gone to a meeting, then we should be able to take some time off. I don't have a problem with that. But
in other words, that is
having
comp time.
yes, it is,
So
in the week that it occurs.
So that's what we need to establish.
Yes.
Within this particular week, if you put in a 12-hour day on Monday, then you have a 4-hour leeway some other time during
Yes.
the week.
And technically, comp time doesn't carry over, doesn't consist until it's, even though you're comping it in that week, it isn't really comp time, what's considered nationally as comp time, till the next week when you're getting overtime for those hours, and then you're doing time and a half for the following
Or in our
week.
case, when we pay once a month, it really all falls under the same pay period anyhow. Because you get to the, like you said, I mean, for different departments, you either get to the 40 or you get to the 43, then depending on your leave time, you're using this or you're using that, or what kind of leave it is, you're using this type of leave, that type of leave,
So, but I still think that you should have departmental hours. I don't think if you ask Ladonna if she's saying, should you be able to work whenever you want to, she's going to say that. She's going to still say she needs departmental hours. That is how you catch errors like this. If he had been working from 4 to 4:30 every single day, we would know that. Or even if you guys want to say 7 to 4 for him, I don't understand why you would be anything different if he's in the courthouse than what the courthouse hours are. It's just my personal opinion, but that doesn't mean it's right.
But like in the case of Jean Paul, he may need to have variable hours because he may scrub the floors when during normal business hours, so it may benefit him to be earlier or later. Correct, so.
Now, our former, a long time ago janitor, she split her hours, so she came in half the time, so she was never here during working hours. So she was, I think she was here from 6:30. I mean, she was here a little bit during working hours, but like 6:30 to 9:30, and then she came back and worked in the evening. When they hired Pete, he was coming from Sylvan, and they didn't feel like it was right to ask him to split his hours. So all the courthouse staff picked up, starting to close, take down the flags, lock up the doors, and now they've got a light on the flag, so we don't have to take that down anymore. But, maybe the question is that right that we have that? He's claiming that he can't clean while he's in our offices, but some of the things aren't getting cleaned to begin with. So maybe the 5:30 to 8 isn't enough time. Maybe he needs to work overnight or work in the evening after hours, and you guys can set those hours. I just think that you guys need to set those hours. I don't think you should have employees telling you when they're going to work. Now, can you, because you're changing it, can you like provide input with him? Yes, but then the next position needs to be the same hours. So
Be consistent.
yes.
And also, maybe like you were saying, we maybe should have a job description of what needs to be done daily, weekly, because some of these things maybe aren't being completed to our satisfaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should discuss that too.
And employees here in the courthouse, they won't come down and tell you guys, but if you talk to them one-on-one, they might visit with you about it. And they're not willing to do a survey in which they're writing because people will know what their handwriting is and they don't feel like that's fair. But they will say, why are we paying an employee benefits plan? My issue is I don't want all of the responsibility dropped on my office. That tends to be what happens. And I get it. They say, wouldn't it be cheaper just to contract out the mowing and contract a cleaning company to come in and thoroughly clean? When you do a cleaning company, normally they bring multiple employees and they're in and out within a couple of hours. I don't know if that's appropriate or not. But it is the discussions that have been over and over and over again, and then each of us be responsible for our own offices.
As long as we've always had our own custodian or maintenance person here, hired as an employee for the county. We've never contracted out before that you know of. I mean.
When Shirley Barons was our janitor, they contracted out, well, I shouldn't say they contracted out, they hired, somebody to come in and mow because she didn't mow. But,
So what do we need to do to change the status of the emergency management vehicle, and how do we want to announce working hours? I think that's where we are, right?
yes. I think that you guys need to make a motion on the emergency management hours because I don't think that he's just going to change what he's doing without you guys making.
Do you have that job
something.
description?
I please do have. When he said something about it's not, or in his job description that he has what his hours are. There isn't any job description that has what their hours.
Yeah. But do we have it in the handbook?
That's a good question. I started to look that up and I forgot. I was looking that up.
Pay periods, overtime, holiday pay, breaks, time worked, hours. Number 4, page 4. The individual department heads will arrange specific hours of operation for each department. The supervisor establishes the schedule for personnel in each department, or the department head based upon the volume of work and ability of personnel. Offices may be closed for lunch based on the availability. Okay, so we can add in there, in that section, that these are the working hours, and the individual department heads may arrange exemptions when necessary. How about that? That's page 4, Dawn.
And in his job description, it says that you guys are his supervisor.
Oh yes, that would be a direct department under the commission.
Supervision. The employee acts under the supervision of the Board of County Commissioners.
Mm-hmm. Here's where it's confusing. Under marginal functions, it says works in conjunction with other public safety departments and interested parties. So it's this is kind of classifying by saying other public safety. So just strike other. Works in conjunction with public safety departments. And then there's not a question as to how we're categorizing it, because by all of the other definitions that we've received, we can't justify, as you said, maybe 10 to 12 calls a year that are actual emergencies that require the level of planning and coordination that he's been studying. The rest of them are fire department calls, sheriff department call, where they don't need a headquarter type logistics person involved. This is for a more massive undertaking, like we had when we had the fires out at the lake. Was that 2 years ago now? I can't believe how long it's been. But he was very helpful in doing that strategic type planning. But that doesn't happen but once or twice a year if it's something to that magnitude.
Does he coordinate, like if there's a fire out in a, brush fire, and does he coordinate with the fire department on what to do, or does they do it on their own, or do you guys know?
I think they're doing it on their own unless
They're
they ask
the
them for
the
help.
fire chief in his district it is.
Fire
in
chief
charge.
basically does it, huh? So
He's in charge.
or even the emergency manager really doesn't.
I think
When they need help,
he's supposed to be there to gather resources for them. So if they would call and say, I need more trucks, this is how many trucks I need, it's up to him to contact other agencies to get those more trucks.
Or other counties if we need help.
Especially if it's other counties.
Other counties if we had a big fire and need help.
Especially then, if we're working
I was wondering
through
who-
our own borders,
Yeah, I
past
don't-
our own borders.
Yeah, my question is kind of who's the point of contact for, is it the fire chiefs or the emergency management person, or
I
do
think
they
it's the
have
fire chiefs until it becomes where there's so many agencies, then I think they have like a command center set up where the fire departments report to the command center and then they tell them where to go.
and also if there would be injuries or somebody hurt out in a house fire, then would he be contacting our EMS people too, or
Normally when the fire department goes out, the EMS is already going out.
they all go together?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's kind of the standard protocol is that when they page fire, ambulance always goes, and they do what they call standby. So some of those runs that Brandon was talking to you about last week, those are gonna be standbys. They consider every time the ambulance leaves the shed a run.
And the sheriff's department probably gets involved also.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Now see, I'm having an issue reading under essential functions, you go down third up from the bottom, plans, directs, and trains or schedules training for personnel in proper disaster and emergency procedures. Now there's where I have an issue. We don't have personnel in that particular department. So are we expecting this person in this position to do that for other departments? If so, what is the order of hierarchy? Because the elected official of the sheriff is on his own, so that's not, there's not going to be an oversight by emergency management over the sheriff. Now, we do directly cover, how do I want to say that? We oversee the EMS department directly. Therefore, if we instructed the emergency manager to schedule training for them, then that should be followed. However, emergency management is not well versed or educated in those particular fields of being able to do the training for the EMT and those specific type things. So that doesn't really work. So what are we considering planning, directing, and training or scheduling training? For me, right now it seems like that's only for himself.
But he did set up this training where they're all a bunch of us. Several of them are going to go to Texas here coming up, right? That major training program at Texas where they're going to go down. That he kind of coordinated that, didn't he?
Yes, he found that information and put it out there for them to sign up. You're right. I guess where I'm going with it is one time he had come in and asked about traveling and being able to, have that leave, being paid to leave to go to a seminar where he was going to get some reimbursement for his travel, etc. And then I asked about him coming back and being able to regurgitate that information. He said, well, I'm not qualified to do that. I don't know if anyone remembers that particular meeting, but I take an issue with that because we are spending money and time to provide one person information that is not necessarily shareable or being shared, or what happens when that person leaves that position. Then we've invested a lot of our pay time goes to training that doesn't stay with the position. It leaves with the person. So then we would have to reinvest. Let's say
it
this
does
job.
that with every job.
No, not necessarily.
Yes, it does. We found that out with human resources, that when someone leaves, they take knowledge with them.
Okay,
And that's all we can, that's with everything. They take knowledge with them.
But there's a difference between coming back from a seminar and not sharing the information with anyone versus being a department head that then instructs your
I'm
department.
not sure that he said he couldn't share it, he just couldn't train them because he didn't have the credentials to do it, you know. Some of this requires, just like teaching CPR. I mean, you have to, you may go to the class, but you can't go instruct someone else because you haven't got certified to do it. I think that was what he was saying.
But could he offer what he learned at that training?
I think he could. I think he could, but he couldn't, you know, for points or things
Yeah.
like that. You
know,
couldn't
are
do
you,
it.
are you training him, or are you offering the knowledge that you
Yeah.
learned?
Yeah, I'm
You know,
not
can you-
suggesting a
Sharing
training where
knowledge.
you get people certified. I understand that's a whole nother level of function, but what I'm saying is we're investing in these trainings that don't come to fruition locally for anything.
He also stated in that meeting or he implied that people refused to come to the training. He set things up, but people refused to come. I'd like to know what he invited me to attend, because I've never been invited to anything besides everything that I've been invited to has been he's come to you guys and you guys have said everybody must go. So
The only thing I can think of is he was going to plan an emergency practice drill for like an active shooter in the courthouse. And he wanted to do that in conjunction with some outside, out of the county agencies, and our own sheriff's department was not comfortable with that because they weren't put to be the lead in charge of that situation. That's the only one I can think of off the top of my head, Dawn.
But I don't know if he met employees or if he met. But my understanding, and maybe that needs to be defined, but for personnel, my understanding is that is the volunteer firefighters, volunteers, and county personnel. But that's just my personal opinion. Now, the person, like he called him the predecessor of the one before, he had training sessions where he, you know, like that thing that David told you hadn't taken yet. We went out to the nursing home and we all took it together. Does that make sense? He had training sessions where you all did that together. Now I get that it's convenient if it's online, because it'd probably be a little bit more convenient for me if I took things like that online than to spend all day in training. But I don't like training, not like that where you have to throw yourself out there and be. I like my kind of in the box type thing. So, but that doesn't mean that David's wrong in how he's training. He should be going to the
He's
departments
providing
and
the
saying-
information. Right. No, and I don't have a problem with that. I guess,
But that's how I define personnel, but maybe we need to define that even further.
What hours does he think he works? His scheduled hours, did he say?
he did not say. He basically said from the
8
time
hours
he
and 8
leaves
hours is
home.
8 hours.
Right, from the time he leaves home until the time he gets home, whatever his 8 hours has been. And then I believe what he insinuated is that he's been including part of his 8 hours as if he does storm watching or does something after hours. Is that, because he doesn't get overtime, correct?
He does not get overtime, but I can tell you if you reviewed, and I don't know how much you want to get into it, but if you reviewed all of his time cards, there isn't hardly a single week that he doesn't work supposedly overtime. Now, I feel like we should be in the executive session, but
Well,
I could.
let's
I-
not talk about the person as much as the position, because I'm going back to, essential functions. And if we're going to require this position to have office time, which I think when I've asked in the past what this position does normally when there's not an extra function going on, it is quote unquote office time. There's a lot of work that goes into the paperwork and the grant requests and the keeping up with all the
It's still
changes.
considered administrative, but not actually, can't think of the other word that's not administrative.
Clerical? Or,
Well, it's administrative work. He's doing the clerical side of it, but then you have the manual laborers. So it's a weight of whether or not the position.
but what do you think that ratio is from desk work to field work, let's call it?
I honestly don't know what he's providing you guys when he's reporting to you monthly. It's 100% administrative, because how many times has he told you that he responded on a call? Maybe 1 month out of the past 10?
So in this position, if we're saying it's probably 90-10, this emergency manager, and we could call and ask around. I mean, I know what concerns me looking at it at a whole is Saline County has one emergency manager, and they have 20,000 people. Now, I don't know how many people she has in her office, but I don't think it's that many, if any. So I guess I'm wondering, like, where are we missing what other functions can be done in the 90% of the non-field work time? In other small counties out west, I think I mentioned this before, at least one that I know of has combined, their emergency manager is also the working director of the EMS department. In other words, doing that clerical work for both of those offices from 9 to 5, or 8 to 4:30, excuse me. So if there's that kind of time gap available in this position, I think we kind of need to know what is expected. Because right now, all this says under essential functions is all this communicative stuff, but that's more in an active sense of field work. Communicates with governmental entities, communicates with the county commission, coordinates with blah, 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 federal and state programs, but that's all regarding incidents. If we're talking about just a daily issue, it basically just says establishes and maintains a network of expert advisors. Okay, so that's all communication related for the event that is all hypothetical. But the regular stuff is preparing reports and updates and guides as directed by KDEM, or FEMA, plans, designs, executes, maintains, and updates emergency operations plans. I know that's being done in this position. Maintains and works with LEPC. That's being done in this position. But on the daily, I guess, is what I'm getting at. What is the daily paperwork requirement that's happening? And therefore, what are the office hours associated with that? Because if someone has a question, they should be able to make that contact at a certain time during the day.
You asked him the one time what he does during the time, and I think he said this in an open meeting.
He did. It was open.
That he educates himself daily. I think that's part of the problem. I think that he goes to all these trainings because when he is here, he doesn't know what. That position doesn't know what to do. And that's not his fault, that's the board's fault.
Right,
because
we need
don't
to have an
understand
expectation.
the position enough to know what it is that they should be doing and providing.
I have an idea.
instruction.
Let's invite, because I met her, she's very well-versed, and I don't know how long she's been doing it. Let's invite the Saline County, keeping in mind that it's a 20,000 person population, but let's invite her to speak to the board to give us a little more insight on this position, and maybe we can do a little comparison as far as what we're lacking in our job description for time requirements. Does that make sense? Let's reach out to the, her name is escaping me, right? Hannah. Her name's Hannah from Saline County.
Are you saying 20,000 as the county?
Population,
We
isn't
got
it?
50,000.
Yeah, it's
Clean County, or more.
Are you
Just
sure?
under
Salina has
50,000.
50 itself.
Oh,
Oh,
so
yeah.
then it's just Salina with 20. The whole county's 50.
No,
Well,
no,
Salina's
is just
50,
under
and the county's probably 60 or more.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Oh, yeah.
That's- that's-
Salina's been sitting at 50 for about ever, for a long time.
I thought there was this big race between Hutchinson and Salina to get to 50, and nobody did.
Well, they neither did get to 50,000, but made it different, but they're right under.
Okay.
And
The
then with
city.
El Saline, the southeast of Saline,
The
and
whole county makes it
Gibson
more
and
than 50,000.
Gibson and
Well, I'm
Brookville.
sorry.
and-
Well, then we're really a drop in the bucket, and we should not compare ourselves to Salina
Yeah,
for
three-
anything.
3,000 people here.
As a full-time position, then you got,
Well, that's part of my question.
Saline County, the last 2010 census was 55,606.
Wow.
55?
Wow.
Yeah, I knew there were 50 of it.
Wow. That is more than double what I was thinking. That's amazing. Okay, so we'll come back to that. We have more work to do on the job descriptions. welcome Michael and Tanner.
I'm gonna take
Sure. We'll
a little break,
have a little 5-minute recess here.
share the coffee.
Dawn, that's a very dangerous machine you put out there.
I know the hot tamales are like calling my name. It's like, God, come eat me. Come eat me.
Where'd you get that?
That's that place that Sharon had mentioned from Ellsworth. So they kind of were on the, but we called them, or Hannah emailed them again, and they finally said they would go ahead and try. The only thing that they did ask is if we could put up some signs that says vending machine in the basement. You
Yeah.
know, since it's not on. the main
Advertise
floor.
it, like, yeah.
And it's not, but, and then I chose, that's where the pop machine used to be at, and I didn't realize how loud it really was until, you know, I kind of feel sorry for Ashley who had to work right outside the door from it, because I bet in that metal, because her ceiling is metal, that she probably was just like 20 times the noise.
Yeah.
I just decided we're gonna put it back over there, because it is hard to hear when it's
Mhm.
running. It's hard to hear.
And I didn't look in the boiler room. Did you find a refrigerator?
No, not yet. I put out an in search of, somebody had one for $100 in Beloit on their buy-sell trade, but I'm not a member of their buy-sell trade, and I haven't been accepted yet, so.
Okay.
But we're still looking. Somebody said the Mars has used ones that they sell. I'm assuming when they remove,
It's the appliance.
when they deliver, I don't, then I have to worry about how am I gonna go get it, so, yeah.
So prior to having our open session with our engineer and everything, I would like us to go into a 5-minute executive session because we have some unfinished conversation about some employment situations within the department. And I will make the motion, and I only need 5 minutes if that, I'm sorry, but if that works for you, Michael, it'd be just you. So I move to recess into executive session for 5 minutes for the purpose of discussing, let's say, management positions within the highway department pursuant to KSA 754319 2B to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel
I'll second.
with, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
With the Public Works Director, the Commission, and the County Clerk to reconvene in the basement meeting room of the courthouse.
I'll second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
None opposed.
Number one, we gotta find somebody that can fill the shoes. And potentially bigger shoes than what he wore. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, so it's time to create a new ad. Thank you. I apologize.
I do have here a gravel agreement. We do have 2 gravel agreements that are due this year. They both, we set them due at the end of
Okay,
March.
yeah.
Some people chose 1, 2, 3 years. This one was one of the 1 years. We have another one that's a 1 year that we have not received back. This would be on the Barba Holmes pit. If you
I think
guys-
maybe we would,
Sign them all
should
the
do
same day.
I would suggest we wait and see if we can't get them both,
Okay.
and do them the same. And if you need to communicate with her that,
Yeah, I think she'll be fine with that. I visited with her this morning.
and I also think we need to set the price of gravel at that time too.
Bless you.
God bless you. So you're saying compile these as they come in
I
and
would
sign them
say
all on
2
the
of
same
them,
day?
yeah.
We
It's the
have
end of March,
2
right?
meetings. We would have the 18th or the 25th remaining.
Yeah, so I would say
Are you in contact with the other one that has their 1 year expiring now?
I have visited with them.
Do they
mailed
intend to
out,
continue?
and under my intentions, yes, or my belief, yes. But
Okay.
it's not a guarantee until it's in. But
Okay.
Where is this? Oh, it's on here, west half. Where
yeah,
is
it's just west of or east of Maryland Bells, the
Oh,
gravel
okay.
pit.
it? Yeah, okay.
Do you get the Ellsworth paper?
I do not.
Did you know that they're purchasing Lincoln County gravel?
Did not.
I'll give that to you. You can look that over. It'll be interesting to analyze. Tanner, what did you have for us today?
Oh, can I get a copy of this
You
so I
can
can?
take that.
I can have this.
That
I'll read
doesn't-
it out in the meeting.
That really just states that Ellsworth has some sandy gravel. They're complaining that they want some more clay rock to blend with it. That's basically what it's saying in a nutshell. We have just the opposite problem. We got too much clay, in my opinion.
Well,
Maybe not.
yeah, I'll definitely need to review this.
Well, and what needs
For
to be
other
analyzed
information.
is that company is obviously making a mixture based on what they're purchasing out of here and what they have. So, because they're purchasing it to that company who's going to then apply it to the road base, is what it reads.
Okay, like I said, I haven't read this article, but
Yeah.
Look it over.
I'll tell you right now, I am working with this company right now to secure a lease on a pit within this county, so.
Okay.
We also need to probably check on prices around the counties when we set this gravel price 1st of April to.
Prices around the county, what do you mean?
Around this area. of counties.
Surrounding
Yeah.
competitive competition, is
Kind
that
of.
what you're saying? Didn't we do that the last time when we changed it?
We did do some looking. There's very few that use anything natural around. You know, Ellsworth does sand. There's some milled rock up in Mitchell and Osborne County. They don't, but it's a different style. You know,
Yeah,
they take in
I know. But I guess I
milling
just want
machine
what
and-
the landowners are getting. I think we have to be competitive. You know, we got what we got. You know,
My concern with that, Mr. Wallace, is that
but we
did
have
not.
got to be competitive, or people are going to come into this county and haul it out.
My concern is that we did not set anything in the budget for that type of projection. I mean, we used even the numbers from the prior year that we had not, we didn't double the budget line item to compensate for purchasing the exact same amount of gravel the second year at double the price. So I'm a little concerned
Well, I
about
think
for the rest
we
of the
set
year.
the budget for the road department, and that's what's going to come out.
You know, I guess outside of an executive session to discuss some proprietary information that might be helpful for what you guys are discussing, but I mean, I do have a little bit of information that you guys might find interesting.
I think we need to know that within the next week or two.
Yeah, let's do
Well,
it on the 18th. That's it.
Okay, yeah, I guess we've used quite a bit of time already, so. And the only other thing I have for you today is, you know, we've discussed this several times about the backhoe at the landfill. My recommendation was that it needed to be replaced. You guys asked me to seek the prices, and we've went a couple different routes on it. After visiting with department head, he still believes that he, in his best interest, would rather repair the one that's there and continue to use it. He has asked me to make arrangements for our mechanics to work on it and to get the cylinders removed and taken into Ginders.
Where's Ginder?
Salina, it's a hydraulic shop.
Okay.
I guess outside of your guys'
And
decision
why
otherwise.
does he feel that it is more valuable than to upgrade?
I've asked the same question and I can't get an answer other than
Is it
he
because
doesn't
the
want to spend the
controls?
money.
Is it because the controls are going to be different and he's going to have to relearn how to pack, or
Does that
what's it?
backhoe leave the site?
Not very often.
So it's mostly used for the pushing of the garbage. right? Is that-
90% of tacking and pushing the garbage. And it gets used for other things there too, but, you know, it goes to the tree pile sometimes. It pushes up concrete. It might push up some steel. It'll go turn the recycle with the grass and stuff like that. But, you know, that was my recommendation, just for the fact that we could easily put $10,000 to $15,000 into it here, and then the engine or transmission fails. So I just wanted to let you guys know that it was not my recommendation not to replace it, but if you guys so choose to want to proceed that way, that will be your decision.
What's it gonna cost to replace it?
It's going to be over 100,000,
Over
or
100,000.
near that 100,000. We never have got a firm number yet because we've just been.
But that's for brand new.
Yes, that's correct.
And you're thinking that probably we're gonna spend what in this time?
It could easily be 10 to 15. You know, replacing cylinder, or not necessarily replace. We need to remove, overhaul, and reinstall the cylinders. There's about 3 or 4 that need done now that are leaking bad enough that it's not good.
Have we had trouble with the engine or the transmission? Has it ever been?
I don't believe anything major's been done to
How
either
old is
one.
it?
92, I believe.
How many hours?
I can't remember what it was now. 7, 8,000 maybe. I can't remember.
Has
for
it
sure.
ever been in to have any?
Nothing major. You know, they've been fighting with the air conditioner and some stuff like that. It's got a huge tendency to overheat, so I know they've got it hot a few times. You know, it's. I don't want to fight with the department on it. I mean,
I don't either. I don't like the cost of a new one either. But
no,
I
understand.
when you hit that 8,000, we've not touched the motor. It makes me nervous. To be right honest, if we haven't had it in and had it checked. And,
You know, and that's just initially. There's all those other things that need to be done. You know, the pins and everything, it's very worn out. The joints are sloppy in it. You know, hoses, you know, before you're done, you've rebuilt the whole thing on an old shell if you're not careful. And if you do that, you're going to have the cost, more of a cost than a new one would have you in the beginning. I understand both sides of it. It's a tough decision to make. You know, nobody likes to spend that initial dollar up front, but it can save you a lot on the backside.
This is the one at the landfill now.
That's correct.
Does it get used a lot?
Oh, they use it daily.
Just to push the trash in?
Pushing trash, compact the trash.
So really, there's not a lot of hours per day or per week to get.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. Not
You
like
know,
an
it
outpouring
varies.
plow or something. Well, that is it.
Correct.
Well, call me crazy, but I think a minimal investment right now, if it's going to buy us a few years, sounds like a good idea, and we can put our efforts financially towards something else.
That's your choice. I'll let you make that decision.
So what are you
because-
for?
I mean, I think if the department head is advocating that we go ahead and get it repaired, if it's a $15,000 investment and it buys us 2 to 3 years, potentially. I mean, I know we have other money that we're going to have to put into it, but if you're not, you know, if our engine and everything is going to sustain us for 2 to 3 years, that's a good return on our investment.
Well, and I
I
think
can't
too, it's-
guarantee that it will, though. That's my.
There's no guarantee with
I
anything
understand
ever,
that.
so.
I know.
Yeah.
I
it'll
just want to make
guarantee
that
anything.
known.
You get a brand new one, it'll blow up tomorrow too.
But it'll be warranted.
Yeah.
The tree could fall on it, you know.
The thing is I don't think they have that many hours a week they use it. You start it up, push the trash in for half an hour and you're done. And so they probably gets, 5 hours a week? So that's not much. I think too, we should do the repair way. Just because if you were using it all day out really stressing it, I could see you're having an engine transmission problem. But to push some trash in a pit for half an hour a day, if that much, we're not using it that much. So I think repairing would be the way to go too, my personal opinion.
Okay, can I make just a comment? So
Yeah.
On the
while this
backhoe?
is getting worked on, they're gonna have to use another backhoe.
Mhm.
Those are foam-filled tires that prevent whatever they prevent. So they're a special tire to keep them from being punctured. And if they would take the backhoe from like the highway department and borrow, then everybody needs to be aware that the landfill probably should pay for the repairs on all the tires while this is being repaired, because I'm assuming it's gonna take a couple of weeks. to
Easily.
repair.
It could easily take a couple weeks.
Just kind of to make you guys aware. Because I don't think the highway department's tires are those special tires, are they?
No. You know, and that backhoe might get used a little more someplace else if you didn't have those foam filled, just because, you know, they ride rough when you get down the road and stuff like that. You know, it's, you limit how much you rode it just for that fact. But to work that application, you need those tires, or else you're constantly doing repairs.
Not that that's a bad thing, just so you know. I would think that we would pay for those repairs, or they would pay for those repairs. I'm sure there will be repairs, just gonna tell you.
Oh, and they need to be made aware of the situation. I mean, that they should be taking extra precaution.
So is that the direction this board would like me to go?
At this time, yes, from what I see.
Now, Joe, you have an opinion?
No, I guess I don't know. I don't know what to do, but I do know that when we're reaching 7,000-8,000 hours, we are treading
I can't recall off the
on
top of my head
treacherous
on that.
ground, in my opinion. But I guess what concerns me the most is that it's never been taken in and checked, you know. And maybe this is when we do that.
Mhm.
But we're going to talk about $30,000 or $40,000 bill probably.
Easily. And our closest dealer
For
now
checking?
is,
If an engine transmission would go.
Well, yeah, just to make sure the main bearings are all right.
Wait, but you're saying that's gonna be the bill for the check?
Huh?
if
You
you're
said we're
to,
talking a
if you're to
30,
take the engine down,
If you're gonna do all those
Strip your
tests
engine
on
down
it
and
and
check
things,
it.
yes, I mean,
you know, it's just not a visual inspection.
30 or 40, including the 15 that you're talking
No,
about, or 30 and
that's-
40 in
no.
addition to?
Just addition. I mean, you're gonna put, if we're going to do a good check on it, we're gonna put $30,000 into it. From what repairs have already been mentioned to me.
Where at? Where would this be taking place?
Yeah, I don't,
The
what is
engine
it?
transmission would have to go somewhere up in Nebraska, since the
What
place,
is it? What is it? What kind
it's a
of?
JCB.
Oh,
You talking about overhauling this stuff or just checking it?
He's saying it's a $30,000 to $40,000 bill just to get it checked.
You talking about?
by the time we do all the cylinders and by the time you, and whatever else they.
Oh, I'm not
find.
questioning it. I don't know.
No,
I'm just trying to.
Are you
do
talking
the
about
math.
rebuilding it, overhauling?
No,
it?
I'm not talking about, no, I'm just saying, you know, that they're gonna have to check, they're gonna check the power, they're gonna check the main bearings.
Who do you go through to do something like that? Who have you gone through?
Well, we run John Deere, so
Okay.
that's where
So
we go. That's where we go. I mean, you know, it's, once those things go in the shop, they're expensive, you know. But, you know, and maybe we take our gamble and just do the cylinders and be done with it. That, you know, but I'm just saying that if we get those kind of hours, you may be looking at something.
we can send it to Salina for what it needs now.
Well, we can remove the cylinders and send those down.
That's okay, but I'm
Just the
saying we don't
cylinder
need
work.
to. I mean, Nebraska is if we're going to do the engine transmission check.
Should. I don't see why Ginders can't repair those. I haven't checked with them, but they can usually repair about any cylinder. You know, it is a British machine. Everything's metric on it, so it is set up different, but they should be able to get what we need.
Okay. Well, let's move forward with the repairs and see what you find out in that process.
So when you say you're gonna do this check, what exactly is included in this check? You taking the engine apart with the cylinders out and all that?
I don't think they don't take them. They'll look at the injectors and they'll look at all
Just
that stuff.
Just
Yeah.
a check of it.
Yeah, just to check it
Against-
over good, you know, and you always find some things wrong. I mean, that's all.
Well, yeah, with
You know,
that.
I mean, that's
Well, I know.
my experience with the tractors. You know, we try to do them at 3,000 or 4,000 hours. We try to take them in and make sure they're up. You know, we got
Yeah.
one that's close to 10,000 hours now. We've been lucky. We haven't had any major problems.
Do we know how many hours we're looking at?
7,000 we got. He said it.
That's
It is
rough.
Approximately.
I can't remember
Well,
for
approximately
sure.
somewhere in the ballpark.
It's got quite a few. You know,
Yeah, well,
it's
which is up there.
27
I'm
years
thinking-
old.
Yeah, it's almost 30 years old.
Yeah.
When they made stuff better. So let's just hang our hats on engineering of our predecessors.
All right. What do you all got, Tanner?
Bridge number 87, the one out west of town here. They were going to try, best case, try the deck pour on Thursday, but there's some rain in the schedule.
Tomorrow and Wednesday.
Yeah, so if that happens, it's going to get pushed off. So they're getting close to having that bridge deck pour. They plan on bringing the concrete from Russell and then coming in from the south side. And we're going to have a guy out there testing concrete, making cylinders, all that jazz. Yeah, so that's an update on that project. And then last time we talked about the landfill, we're putting together some scope items to do the survey and stuff. I don't quite have that done. And then we ran over to the deeds office and found a boundary survey. So we're going to be putting that together.
So is that going to be a possibility to just go ahead and block off all of that 40 or whatever that, however many acres that is?
Yeah, so
In one application?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. So we would. The last engineer, I think they just did they just designed a cell.
Right.
And they.
You can just copycat that and go through and
Yes.
basically get permitted so that we're grandfathered
Right.
into the whole
So
section. Okay.
yep. So we'd come and survey the whole 40 acres and
Yeah.
lay the design out for the whole 40 acres. So
Okay.
you guys aren't coming back and paying every time you've got to do a cell. Somebody to do it, and then get that all approved from KHE, and then
Okay.
go from there.
Okay.
So, yep. So I'm working on that. Hopefully next month I'll have that for you guys. And
On your bridges, and Michael, you may know too, do you have like a schedule of what bridges you got coming up to work on and a priority list of what bridge you're gonna do after you know, for what you're working on some right now, right?
yeah,
We
How do you determine which bridge you're gonna do next and the one after that? Do you have a
We-
priority schedule of what needs to be done first, or?
we've got
You got a budget for just for bridges, I guess we do, right?
We do have.
So we got a special budget, that's what you guys work on for that, right?
Yeah, so we pretty much have like a project list.
We do like 1 a year, 2 a year,
Well, that depends.
depends on
You know,
how
the
how
size
big-
of them.
The
and
size
everything
and how
else.
difficult, how expensive probably.
Time, weather, and everything else. Yes.
I was just
you know,
curious.
we do have several projects that we need to get moving if the weather will allow. One is finishing the one just west of town here, and then we got one up on X-ray that
Right.
needs addressed sooner than later. But
Where's that?
it's just west of 181 on X-ray.
Yeah.
It's not a bridge, I believe. It's
Not mine.
Yeah, it's underneath.
It's a culvert under
Right.
Culverts
20.
and-
Under 20.
It's like
Culverts and stuff.
Timber.
Oh, God,
It's a-
just
it's a
curious.
large
Any
one.
bridge that is, the length is less than 20.
if the clear span on the inside is 20.
20 foot or greater. It's a bridge.
It's a bridge.
Less than 20. It's a culvert.
Culvert.
Yeah.
So
Now, is
nine-
that by law, or is
19
that just
yes.
your, our,
So that's the federal
policy?
highway.
That's a
So-
law thing with KDOT or somebody.
The
It's
feds.
their classification
Okay,
system.
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, I just
Yep.
getting educated.
That was helpful to know because I keep saying bridge
Well, I don't
for
know
things
all
and
this
it doesn't
stuff.
even show up
That's
on the
why I
map.
asked you all this.
Right.
19 feet, 11 and a half inches is
Okay.
going to be a culvert.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So we have to do anything 20 foot or greater is a bridge. So we have to do the biennial bridge inspections.
Okay.
But that's a mandate by the feds. And then they audit KDOT, so KDOT reinforces it.
Sure.
So it's through KDOT. But there was a bridge back,
Now, do you do the design for that stuff, or do there's your for the bridges?
yeah, so we designed 87,
Yeah.
reinforced concrete
Yeah.
haunch slab. I put together a couple plan sheets for the bridge just west of town here
Okay.
that Michael can kind of use. So I, put together these plan sheets kind of generically, and so then he can go and use this
Okay.
in the future. So he's not constantly having to pay an engineer to redesign everything.
But
Tanner, what you sent me through the email, did you send that to the other commissioners as well? Or was that just to me? I can forward
I
that.
forward you the road maintenance agreements and that stuff.
And there was like a list of,
Yeah, so that's kind of.
was
stuff
that just me?
Yeah.
Okay,
that was just
I can
you.
send that on, pass that on.
Yes, we have a project list, and we always try to, you gotta do permits. So we try to get out in front
You
of
gotta get state permits for
and
all
get
this stuff.
some, yeah, depending on the location.
And then the state inspectors come out and all this.
Not really.
Not
Not
really.
really. Bigger projects potentially, but the smaller stuff they usually.
Typically not, you never know.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got I don't know if it's of interest to you, Michael, or it may be about from the Lake, Wilson Lake. We send out what did I do with it there? Army Corps of Engineers are gonna redo, might be interesting for both you guys, you can read that. And there's got a meeting coming up, they're gonna redo, the rules of operation, I think, for the lake and the facilities around it and all that, and that may affect some of you guys, I don't know if it affects Lincoln County roads and bridges around the lake, but you might be interested about that.
Yeah.
Or have an input to it or something, if you want.
Okay.
We get a copy of that.
Yes. I will make you one here, or,
I can go get one when I'm done.
yeah, you can just get one, I'll let you have it, if I can have that back, you have a copy though. And go to the meetings if you guys want to, I think it's April 4th. If you got good input on something there.
April 4th, 3 to 5.
That's all I got with you guys, sorry, I'm gonna hold the drag on here.
Those were the 2 items I had.
Don't know if we should be filling sandbags or not today.
Yeah, we gotta get another inch or 2 or 3 of rain about tomorrow, Wednesday, huh? And man,
Maybe help the roads a little though if it rains.
It could. I just wish the snow in the ditches would melt. It's dammed several spots up and water's went over where I've never seen water go over.
oh yeah, it's so spongy. I'm getting stuck out in the grass, which normally you would never be, it's just so saturated with water.
Did you have anything else to present to us?
I didn't.
Okay, my one last question is, have we yet responded to some of the questions and concerns we had about the route south of Vesper there?
I have not responded to anybody on it, no.
Was Bob following up on that, or how was that
I-
being handled?
I don't believe so. I think we had decided that it was addressed to the commissioners and the commissioners would respond and we can give you any information you need, I guess. What would you guys like?
Yeah, what do we want to do about that?
What is it again? Could you go over it again? I'm sorry.
We had received a complaint in
Oh, yeah.
writing, and basically there was concern about the route.
Elk Drive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that route around the south of Vesper there, so, and to the, I guess, southeast. How are we going to respond? I feel that it's inappropriate to leave it hanging when we had at least 10 or 12 people approach us at once about an issue, let alone we shouldn't leave it
You're
hanging.
talking
If it was
about the
one
letter
person.
about Elk Grove,
Mhm.
and all those people.
Mhm.
Well, you guys looked at it, right, Mike, and were trying to address it. You had Bob went out there, did you? And it's, again, the weather with the snow and the ice right now. What are you gonna do, Until we dry up and you can't, what are we gonna do? I don't know what they are supposed to do in this current situation with this weather right now, Alexis, what would you say?
Well, I think we need to know what the operator's opinion is of what the issue is. I mean, I think it'd be nice to know from the person who's actually doing the work what they need, or what they're not getting, or what they're misunderstanding, or what the actual issue is. I mean, every route is going to have its own issues, and if we're not encouraging them to,
You talking about the grader driver?
yeah, I mean,
Maintain
what I've
operation.
found out over the last 2 years here is that this particular operator on any given route is responsible for a myriad of things. You know, not only just maintaining their road with the grader, but also knowing what needs done, reporting what needs done, keeping track of what has been done. I mean, I don't see that done on an administrative scale as far as any reports to us. So if these 10 routes are being tracked by each individual operator, then they're the ones with the actual knowledge. So we need to find out what the miscommunication is. You know, maybe this particular operator thinks there isn't a problem, or, I mean, you're not relaying anything to us as far as what was said. Was there a visitation between management and operator there, or, and what was the
I wasn't
discovery?
in on all of it, as you know, but.
I went and visited the other day with Bob and Michael just to get up on what's going on the road, and he was there, and he took a little bit of umbrage on this letter, but we just said, well, do your job, I guess, whatever the policy is for how to grade a road, right? But I don't know. I think he thought he was doing a good job of being a running grader. So there's his opinion. So
A lot of experts, but none of them will apply.
in other words, it's a lot easier to go out. It's a lot easier to complain about the roads being bad than to go out and work on them and grade them. So that's
It's not easy. And I'll
Especially-
say it again, we could
especially in the
very
last-
well use a trainer.
especially in this last 4 months with all this weather we've had. It's made it very difficult.
Well, you made the comment we could use a trainer. I'm not objecting to that at all. I think I've said that 50 different ways. But the question is, you know, we've purchased and invested in a program so that we can at least track issues.
That program does not train the individuals.
I'm not asking.
And I am working to get that operational.
Thank you.
as you
I
are
think
aware.
they're working with them, and
But what I'm getting to is we've been told that we can't get some of the employees to engage in the program. So if we can't get them to engage in the program, how are we going to get them to engage in the training? That's where I'm going with that.
well,
Where's the disconnect is my question.
you know, I don't know.
How do we find it then? If we don't know what it is, how do we find? I mean, there's got to be a process of elimination here as far as determining what the best course of action should be.
Well, I don't know right now what you could do. Do you have any suggestion?
Well, I think we need to get the program functional so that we can actually visually see what's going on. Because Dan Hana was in here just last week giving us his annual update and review, and you know, it looks to me like it would be very rewarding for the department and for Dan if he's using that program, Mobile 311 it's called, he said that sometimes he'll go and spray and then it gets mowed the next day, which does his purpose absolutely no good. So if we were integrating interdepartmentally the use of the Mobile 311 program, he can say, hey, I have just sprayed all of Union Drive, and then the operator, when he logs in, he can see, oh, Dan was here yesterday, I better not mow today. Do you see what I'm saying?
I think
That's a
we need to
communication
do.
tool.
I'm not saying that thing can do that. I don't know, but it might be able to do it. I don't know how you would
To track
handle
where
that.
Dan has sprayed? I would think so.
Well, you can maybe coordinate so if you deal with him, you probably do. If he's spraying, then you're not gonna be mowing the day later, stuff like that.
Ultimately, you don't start mowing until Labor Day. I mean, if you want to get a true kill on your weeds, the weed department gets around so much faster than a mower does.
Yeah.
You might need that chemical to sit there for a week.
Well, you do.
He might
ground
do
it,
an
get a
entire
kill.
route in a week. So, it is hard to communicate back and forth some of that. But sometimes it's best to just say, okay, we're spraying now, we're not mowing.
Yeah. Just need to coordinate that,
When
make
you
sure
got
if
two
he's doing
spray
that.
trucks going, and you're going to hit, you don't go by territory. You're going to go catch a stretch of road and you're going to go from one end to the other. A lot of times when they're mowing, the mower guy does his territory. He doesn't do
So
the
how
other
does he
one.
know where not to mow is the question. Because Dan said it's not just once upon a time that it happened. I mean, it's pretty frequent that you mow off the spray and the spray doesn't get into the roots. I mean, it's that simple. It's kind of basic, common sense.
Well, there just should be some good coordination between
Do
Mr.
it a little
Hayda.
bit before Memorial Day, and then we can shut off till Labor Day.
Or whatever, but there should be coordination between you guys and him, so as he's spraying, your mower guys know he sprayed it yesterday, so don't mow it. It ain't that hard to get up the phone and talk, or he's got a schedule going on, that's all. That shouldn't be that difficult to do.
Randy, you can say that, but none of these people are brand new employees. So the question is, why hasn't it been happening?
Well, we need more
If it's not
communication.
that difficult.
Yeah, we need more communication on that, that's all.
Which is why I'm saying if we have an integrated program where we're saying check in and find out who's been where, because it'll say, they can actually report. I think the best thing to do, Michael, might be to show Randy what Mobile 311 looks like. You gave us a good demonstration on your iPad. I think that'd be helpful for you to see what that program looks like. It's very user-friendly. So that was all I had. My question about if we were going to follow up on that complaint. So
However you want to do it.
I don't have anything.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'll go get a copy of this and I'll get it back to you.
Okay, thanks. You just lay it here later, or whatever.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladonna, thank you for your patience. I'm sorry we were a little behind going into that session. Did you have anything for us outside of employee evaluation? Okay, let's start there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of the rain and the snow and everything, Michael's guys scooped the back and the front, and they know not to pile it in that corner that we have problems with. But now the city piled the snow in that corner. So anyway, Michael came over because when it started melting, we have this huge ice lake. So I had Michael come over a couple days ago, and he came and tried to scoop that snow out the most he can, and got the ice kind of so it would flow. But I just went ahead and had David bring up some sandbags, and we sandbagged the back door because we were this far from the back door again, and
So what you don't want them to do is pile it towards your northeast corner, correct?
southeast corner.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Of the parking lot.
of the parking lot in the back, yes. So
Did
Right,
you
the southeast
communicate
corner,
with
but
the
it's
city?
the northeast corner of the building, right? Is that?
right.
Okay,
That's the
okay, that's
southeast
what-
corner of the parking lot. We're
Okay.
talking about the same
Yeah,
place. We're
okay.
just yeah. What?
You
I'm
did
sorry.
communicate with the city?
I have not yet, but I
would
will.
communicate with the
It
city.
hasn't. I didn't think it was going to snow again, so I've been super swamped. But I will get on with them because
Yes.
If you don't
They
the
mind-
should
time
know
before
that.
it was Michael's guys piled because they didn't know, and they came and cleaned it all up. Now the city did it, probably because Michael's guys weren't there to fill up the hole, so they took. Or somebody from the VFW piled it there. I don't know who, but yeah, that's my next
Maybe
course
the-
of action. Is figure out who's piling the snow over there and have them quit doing that, please. Or put a big sign up there, don't put no snow here or something. Anyway, it's taken care of, but I'm just gonna leave the sandbags there because at the back door, so we can get in and out, and that way if it rains 3 inches, there's nowhere for it to go, so it's back in my parking lot, so we'll just keep it flowing that way. But Michael did come help with that, so, and David, so just wanted to let you know they can help me with those things.
Okay.
Our grant applications are due every year, March 15th, and I've been working on these for some time. The immunization action plan is $2,000. It helps pay for some salaries to attend immunization conferences and for some supplies that are non-medical and maybe some equipment we would need. And it has very little reporting requirements other than just what did you spend the money on, and we let the immunization program know that. Maternal child health is I applied for $4,400. We traditionally have gotten $4,079. The last 20 years, we've gotten the same exact amount. We never get any more. We were audited last week, and from last year's application, I've got a score of 85 of 130, which is not very good. But this is the first year they've ever audited us in 20 years. And
What are they assessing with their audit? When they give you
the
that
application.
Oh,
So,
just how you did
How I
the
filled out
applica-
the application. And a lot of it was more information, more information, more information. I know I've talked to the commissioners in prior years that it's a lot of reporting and a lot of work for $4,000, and at some point we're going to have to say it's not worth it. At some point, I mean, it's taken me 4 days, about 4 days of time, about 32 hours to fill out this application, and it's frustrating to me.
Are you the only one that works on it?
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah. But some of the questions are the brochures that we use for maternal child health. Are they evidence-based? Where do we purchase them? How do we know they're evidence-based?
So much minutia, yeah.
It's very frustrating, to say the least. So I'm going to apply one more year, but I can't say that I feel the value of the time spent with the application and the reporting, plus the reporting for the services that we provide, all have to be put in a reporting program for each individual person we see, that it's cost effective. I mean, there's other stuff we could be spending our time on, so maybe one more year. Maybe.
Could we join counties to do that? Application like we do some of the others, WIC and those kinds?
There might be a possibility, but even with the counties that we join
They would
with,
have to
I
know
still
your
have to
specific
give them
information.
reporting.
You'd have to
I
report.
still have to do it and help
So
them.
it couldn't be-
I have to give them information
It
to
could
fill
be
it
an
out.
area, it could be,
Not as easily as some of the, because this is more one-on-one client services,
I
not
see.
general public health.
okay.
So,
Are other
So
counties
it'd be
dropping
detail
out?
specific.
yes, Russell
Who is
has,
it through?
Osborne
Who's the-
has,
The grant through?
KDHE, they're all Department of Environment grants. And when the evaluator was there talking to me, I told her, it's a lot of work for $4,000. And she said, well, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't take it. And I'm like, well, this year I've already spent that much time on it. Let's try one more year. But if my application doesn't pass, this is the first year they've evaluated using a tool. I've never gotten a response to any application I've ever done
Just
in the
yes
last
or no,
20
like
years.
just money or not?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, maybe they're trying to
They are.
discourage people
Well, I just think probably the feds are holding
Maybe
them
they
more
should.
through.
accountable.
Yeah.
A
It's
lot
a
of
way to whittle
a lot of our
down.
grants now have budget explanation pages. You can't just ask for $500 for supplies. You have to do a detailed budget explanation that says I'm going to buy 10 reams of paper and so many brochures and this and that and the other.
Mhm.
So a lot of them have gotten a little tougher, and I know that's from the feds. So it just gets a little bit redundant at times. But anyway, public health emergency preparedness. Last year we got 98.71. I applied for 98.82 because they said to keep it the same. And according to the program that I have to send it in, it rounds the numbers. So that's as close as I can get to as last year. Although there may be a cut, we never know. Emergency preparedness is another one of those applications that is asked for detailed information in the reporting and in the application. So it pays for a lot of we have to have broadcast facts. So in order to have that, we used to have a plain old copier, but now we have to have one that will broadcast facts according to the program. We have to have high-speed internet. Well, if we have to have all those things, they're going to pay for it, and that's what a lot of that pays for. So, I don't mind doing that grant because it does cover a lot of things that I don't know how else we would pay for. So, state formula is $7,000. It's been $7,000 for God knows how many years. 1,000, probably since the state started. Lower counties get $7,000. So, So the total funds requested are $23,000. Will we get that much? Not necessarily. I think it'll change just a little bit. But that has to be signed by the Board of Commissioners, by the chair.
I would move the chair sign the application for grants funds.
A second.
It has been moved and seconded to sign the grant application signature page for the health department. Any further discussion? All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
None opposed. What is today, the 11th? Oh, Board of, oh, that's, okay. Are we going to have another Board of Health meeting? I found that interesting.
We should, yes.
When do you have that? I'll try to visit too one of these days.
Well, I try to do it once a year in April. I don't know that we got it done last year, but
No, we skipped a year, but
we should
we
do
did
it
it
again.
as a, we did it at the end of a commission meeting, which was nice. I don't know if that's gonna be possible again, but
Yeah.
that kind of worked out nicely because
Yeah.
we were all here.
And I need to schedule that in April or May when I'm just not so swamped.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of busy right now, but. And then, I don't know who's going to the Regional Planning Commission meetings.
Kelly Larson.
Okay, well, Sherry Angel, who is our Regional Emergency Preparedness Coordinator, she is hired by the Regional Planning Commission, but the grant money comes from 13 counties through emergency preparedness, and it's split up at the state that way. So much goes to your region and so much goes to each county. And Sherry Angel has been our coordinator since its inception, 17 years, I believe, or 16. She's retiring in May, and I'm on the executive committee, and we are working with Doug McKinney to replace her position. And that should be, I think we should make some decisions today or tomorrow.
You were gonna say you were gonna apply.
No. No, it's mostly conference calls. No, it's grant funded. No.
Okay.
When those go away, no. Sherry's wonderful. It's going to be very difficult to replace her, but there will be somebody to replace her coming up shortly. But I have been spending some time because I'm on that committee. I'm the chair actually of that group, so I've spent some time on that. But I hope we have somebody shortly that's just as good as she is, hopefully. But that's all I have.
Are we ready for our executive session?
I want to know about opting out of vaccines. That's hit the national news in Washington and Oregon, where we have outbreaks of measles. Where is Kansas? Where is Lincoln County?
In the state of Kansas, you can opt out for medical reasons, which a doctor has to sign a paper every year. Religious reasons, which is just you saying my religion does not, they don't have to prove anything. And those are the only two ways you can opt out in Kansas right now. Or not attend a public school.
And what do you feel, how much is there in Lincoln County that's?
I don't know exact numbers. I know there's several that homeschool that don't follow the guidelines. They might vaccinate, but at a slower rate, or not vaccinate at all. Some of those are in the school districts. For example, we just had a chickenpox case. If anybody that had not been vaccinated was exposed, they would be sent home and not be able to send school for 21 days because that's the incubation period. And if another case came up in the school, they would, from that case, they would extend the 21 days out again. So if you had a lot of cases, you could potentially have a child out of school for quite some time.
Those would be children that had refused to be vaccinated. Do we have any track of homeschool children at all in the state of Kansas?
Maybe I could look for that information, but I've asked the school district for that information, and they cannot come up with an answer for me for that.
Do we have measles in Kansas?
Not right now. No, there are no cases in Kansas.
Have you followed how many the total outbreak is?
not, there's like 130 some.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty typical for any given year. It's always fluctuated right around 100 per year or more.
It's not that, it's just more kids are being excluded from school. Because in the case of measles, if there's a case of measles in the building your child attends school in, they will be excluded from school. Because it spreads so easily.
Yeah.
And there's more kids being excluded from school than are actually getting the measles, I think. And that's what's raising the red flag, is how many kids cannot come back to school, and the uproar about that. Well, that's the way the regulations read. You have the right to not vaccinate your child, but you also cannot attend a public school if there is an outbreak of a vaccine.
Right.
Now, in Lincoln County, I do have a contact with someone. There is a homeschooled Facebook page that's private, and I do have contacts with someone that I can share information with that she will post on that page if I deem it necessary. So if we would have an outbreak of something that I was concerned about, one case of chicken pox did not concern me too much. But if we'd had 12 or 15 cases, and it was a concern, I would have asked her to post some information on the homeschool Facebook page. That's the way I am communicating with that group
And I
right
guess
now.
the other point of is, are we educating people of
Yes.
the need to do that?
Yes, and when they use our services, they are asked about immunizations, and if they refuse, they have to sign a refusal to be a client at our clinic. They have to sign that they refuse immunizations. Part of that was from a case in southern Kansas where a vaccine was refused and a child died of that disease, and the health department never offered that. So yes, they did, but it wasn't documented. It was refused. So now we are just, if you're a client and you don't want vaccines, you have to
So
sign.
are we providing information on immunizations when people are pregnant, the women?
Yes, yes.
We are doing as much education as we can.
Yes.
I think that's one of the
Yes.
things that they're pointing to in Washington and Oregon. They're questioning whether
Yes.
people have been given the facts, the scientific facts.
Well, and we give the information that we get from CDC and the Academy of Immunization Practices. That's what we have. That's what our policies and procedures are all based on. And that's the same as every other health department in Kansas. And particularly for nurses, that unless it's outright neglect, how would you respond to a situation based on how your peers would respond? So if every health department is using CDC and ACIP guidelines, then that's how we should respond as nurses. So that's what we do. We don't give, there's lots and lots of information out there, but those are the ones that we have to follow. Dr. Dragoni is our medical consultant, and he has to sign standing orders, and they have to be given according to the ACIP and the CDC. He can order it to be given differently, but I won't give it. We fly without a net, basically. We have standing orders, and he's our consultant, but we're on our own. So we have to have a guideline to follow, and that's what we follow. So.
Thank you, Donna.
Are pregnant women getting vaccinations?
Yes, they should get a flu shot and a Tdap in their last trimester.
When did that start?
About 4 or 5 years ago.
4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Pertussis is protective for only so many years, but they're trying to, if they give it at every pregnancy, the pertussis will be in the infant system and provide some immunity up to 12 months of age. And it's not strong enough. It's strong enough to prevent maybe somebody from getting pertussis, but it's not strong enough over time for a pregnant woman to give the immunity to their baby. So that's why they're recommending that in the last trimester of every pregnancy. And they recommend a cocooning dose for anybody, grandparents, parents, Anybody that's going to be around the baby that hasn't had a pertussis-containing vaccine in the last 5 to 10 years, it's kind of have to read the guidelines depending on. So we do have programs. The IAEP money pays for free tetanus shots for people who don't have insurance that are around a baby. Also,
But you can't correct. You can't get just tetanus.
you can get tetanus and diphtheria. It comes with diphtheria. Yes, that one you can get. And tetanus is in the ground. So tetanus is every 10 years, unless you have an injury after 5 years. Most farmers should probably get a tetanus shot every 5 years because they're going to get a cut or a scrape or something where dirt can enter it. So that's the
So you might have had
recommendation.
a case in Nebraska with him.
Right, from an unimmunized child.
First one in a long time.
Long time, yeah. There's not a lot of tetanus out there. There's tetanus coverage is pretty good, yeah. And it's not a human-to-human
Yeah.
disease, but...
Now, I'll give you, I do know a little about that because we castrated cattle and horse manure. He just carries that tetanus, and I had a steer they castrated, and he went down and laid out in the lot where my uncle had his horses, and a couple days later I hauled him to a place that I put my dead animals in a safe place. But yeah, that was,
Horses are susceptible to a lot of the same diseases
Yeah.
we are.
But,
so
yeah.
That's kind of...
my uncle didn't pay me for the steer either.
Uh-oh.
Is it a requirement for the, like, licking little kids or before they go to school to get all these shots?
Unless they have a doctor's order
Or
or a religious exemption, and
I see.
there is no religion that exempts immunizations and written, but there's lots of, I mean, you don't have to prove it, so.
some parents. if
Some
they-
states say a doctor's order is enough not to be immunized. They don't recognize that. And some states also have a parent can just opt out for any reason. So there's a lot of different
Yeah, different places.
differences.
Well, I'm going
on
to speak
that.
to the religion one. Actually,
So.
if you don't believe in abortion, there have been aborted fetal tissues used, not only in some of the cell lines that have been passed on through the generations of the creation of the vaccines, but also in a lot of the research. And so that definitely touches on the religious standpoint of some of that. So I wouldn't say that I agree exactly with what you
Well,
said earlier.
they're just saying in scripture, find it.
Well, if you don't believe in murder or abortion, and you
But
don't want to,
if
and
that-
if you
that-
don't, if you don't want
Right.
to participate
Right.
in
that's
anything that is
true.
associated with using
That's
some sort
true.
of, I mean, that's where that comes from. It's not necessarily straight out of scripture
Right,
in the
and that-
Bible.
Well, and I think too, in the last 10, 20 years, suppose there's been some cases, I don't know if it's true or not, but supposedly some children got vaccinations, they were fine, and all of a sudden got autism.
That's been
They
proven.
were linking autism to some of these
That
vaccinations.
was a study in England on a handful of kids, and he lost his medical license, and that study's been debunked so many times.
Okay, but his name is Andrew Wakefield, and he
That's
didn't
not
say
true.
that it causes autism. What he said was there were a lot of links between some of the things that were found, and so it's all it is an assessment of risks. Yes, there are a lot of children that have had debilitating effects from it. Some have died, and you're risking either way. You're risking if
Either
you
way.
get.
Well, what I heard
Correct.
too, maybe an issue was is you'd have a little young baby, or I don't know, 1 year old, whatever you guys do it, that they would give them a bunch of shots or all at once, and that was an overload on the poor baby. Where now maybe they're spreading those out.
No,
No?
Actually, it's the other way around. When
But-
I was a
but-
kid, I had very few compared to the schedule that's
right.
introduced now.
However, the antigens that are present in the vaccines are at much lower doses.
Okay.
Your babies are exposed to millions of antigens millions of different things every
Bacteria,
single day,
viruses.
whatever.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, there was probably, and I don't know the exact numbers. I have the data on that though, but there were maybe 1,000 antigens in a tetanus shot. Now in the whole series that's given at one time, there's 23. So when you're exposed to millions daily and you're getting 23 from 4 shots, it's a lot less antigen, but more different vaccines. There's more vaccines, more different kinds of preventative vaccines, but the antigens are much lower.
Well, and I think it's not necessarily the exposure to the antigens; it's the adjuvants and the other thing, and the combinations of the different ones that are being combined together. So it's
There's
an experimental
pros and cons
phase
on both sides.
Right, and it's an experimental phase of humanity because 200 years ago we didn't have anything like that. That anyone was
But
using.
50
in a
years
massive
ago,
amount.
we had iron lungs in every hospital, and everybody knew how to use them from polio. I mean, we don't have that now.
For smallpox.
Or smallpox, it's been eradicated except for in labs.
Except it's third world countries still have it.
Not smallpox. Smallpox
Well,
is
I heard
only
there-
in labs.
Well, I heard there was another version that's come in the United States now, which is
Monkeypox.
similar to
Monkeypox. That's a whole
Monkeypox.
different.
Well, and a lot of the polio, I mean, they've
So-
just renamed some things that are definitely polio related. So we can't really say it's not out there. I mean, it's still there.
There's still different parts of the strain, yes there are, but we don't have iron lungs anymore.
Right, yeah, we've come a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Now we need a cancer shot,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, I believe the cure for cancer exists. I know I'm on tape. I think it's political and
Well, there's
I agree
money-based.
with you right
well,
there.
there's some people
Sorry.
that there's
I'll be on that hit list too.
there are
Okay.
hundreds of billions of dollars being made by cancer
There's
being
no money if you
existing.
cure cancer.
And
Sorry.
so
I
some
just
they
don't
say
believe.
that they don't want to cure cancer. I don't know,
So.
whatever.
I don't know.
Well,
So-
that concludes our public discussion. We are going to do the department head evaluation, and I guess we would need. What do you think?
Executive session.
Yes, we're gonna do an executive session to go over the evaluation.
How
I'm
much
asking
time?
how much time we think we need. It is 10 after 12.
Half hour?
I think that would be ample.
I think you plan myself.
Okay. Do you want to do 20, or do you think we need the half an hour?
Are you gonna review her departments as well with her?
Oh, then
Or do you wanna do that separately?
no, we should do it with her. So let's do 40. And that way we're sure. Do you have those, Dawn?
They're in that notebook right beside with her.
Oh, okay. All right, so I will move to recess into executive session for 40 minutes for the purpose of discussing health department evaluations pursuant to KSA 7543-19-2B. To discuss, number 1, personnel matters of non-elected personnel. To reconvene in the basement meeting room of the courthouse with the commission and the health department, department head, Ladonna, Reinert.
I will second, but I would like to wait about 3 minutes before we start.
Sure. Take a 3-minute recess until we,
We better vote
Enter.
first, then
huh?
vote, and then we'll take the
Yes,
recess.
all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Thank you.
Maybe I don't want to reconvene here.
Do you mind pressing the button? Thank you.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, thank you.
Qualities they need to work on, so.
Okay. Is there anything further that we need to go through with you for health department? Anything or other? Okay. And I will say, I do appreciate you coming and giving us your updates. You've been very faithful about that, and that's helpful for us to even have a clue as to how much is going on with what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you're gonna table the discussion on the Council on Aging, so.
Yes, Jennifer was unavailable today. So, did she reschedule, or are we just leaving that up in the air?
She hasn't been sick, so.
Okay.
That's fine.
I'm assuming that she's feeling better.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Ladonna, did you want a copy of yours? Ladonna,
Yes.
do you want a copy of yours?
No.
Okay.
No.
We need a
It's in
3-hole
my
punch
file.
for this.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. So then these could probably be filed for each employee file. And hers is on top, it needs a 3-hole punch. And so is this what you wanted to, did you do this?
Oh, that's what we gave out to departments, so that was Dee Dee's book, so
Oh,
she got it
okay.
too. So that's what was given out that when I said that employees were, or supervisors were provided. I can just take that from the book. Supervisors were provided notice of
Of when the due
dates.
dates are?
Yeah. That just so happened to be hers, but you can keep that.
Okay.
That would be my stuff, isn't it?
That was
He
yours from last week.
brought one for each
Yeah.
commissioner.
Dan Haney brought one, that's yours.
So that's kind of up to you.
Are we out here?
No,
No, we need to do a discussion here. Well, what is this? Oh,
this will
okay.
just be really quick
Yep.
because you can look at it. This is the time clock. So everything that has a star, sorry, my star didn't copy off very well, so I went back. Everything that has a star is an annual price. Everything that is a plus is a one-time price. So down below, your annual cost for this particular time clock system would be $4,116.60 and a one-time cost of $13,424. With that being said, that's putting a time clock with a camera. So every time somebody clocks in or clocks out, it has a picture of them. So that way you prevent those employees that are
Is that
clocking
times
for
how many
others.
locations that you have? Or?
That's 5 locations, so that would be the health department, the courthouse, law enforcement, and the highway shop, and the ambulance shed. Then they
so we're
have
missing landfill.
the landfill. They thought for the cost of it, since there's so few employees, that it might be more beneficial to have them either do the
As
mobile
like the
check-in.
satellite thing. Okay.
On the
Or-
internet? On the
Yes, or
Smartphone.
on a computer. They
computer,
said
smartphone?
the problem with the computer is that you don't know which employee is going in and logging it in because it can't record it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't trust the landfill, but you trust the health department, or we just put clocks in everything. I did not include one down at the recycling center because there's just 2
part-time.
employees. They have no internet. One of the requirements is that they have to have internet for it to communicate. So in your outlying shop areas, they would probably have to do, all of them have those iPads. So we could download that app on their iPad and they could clock in there. They do have a telephone option, but it's 10 cents every time they call in plus a flat fee.
Well, and then we're getting into the weeds about do we pay for a phone? Because if we're going to require them to use a phone to do that, then so
Yes.
so we have. Oh, and guess what? There's an iPad at the landfill because of the mobile 311 program that Dan Hanna is
Okay.
into. So he has an iPad. So that would be the remote location there.
And what happens with that is, although it doesn't necessarily, it may not prevent them from clocking in for each other, but basically you put the fear of God in with them. But yeah, they could clock
I mean,
in
if
with
they're
that.
going to do that, then
But
they're
that-
risking both people's jobs. So that's
Yeah.
not even.
But they geofence it, so either A, we could geofence it, or B, it would click where it would give you.
Geofence is in a certain radius
Yes.
of the central location of the.
Yes.
Okay.
Or they can do a GPS timestamp, and then you look at the GPS location and see whether or not they're at the landfill. So that's how the mobile app portion of it works. So, like, let's say, for example, let's say the ambulance people, we have a time clock here, but they start clocking in on their phones because they're out on an emergency. If they clock in out of their phones, it's going to put the GPS location or if we tell it, he said it's an either or we say you have to be in the geofence of the ambulance shed. He said now they could be across the street on the neighbor's porch and probably be within the geofence because it's based on Google Maps. But he said they're not going to be at their home and be able to clock in.
Yeah.
It's going to say that you're not within the parameters of the building in order to be able to clock in. Mm-hmm. So those are the types of things for the mobile. I don't know how you guys feel, but they did say that they have one person that has a dumb phone, so I really feel like they need a time clock to clock in on, and then the ambulance shed.
Oh, I think it needs to be added because the whole point, the whole justification we've received for having so much coverage throughout the 24-hour day is because they need to be able to leave in 5 minutes. So there's no point in not having it at the shed. I mean, that's the whole hub. Now, is this the program that will co-sync with Comtech?
Yes.
Okay.
And Comtech has contacted them. Now there will be a price for Comtech's fee, but Larry wasn't in when I called, and they said they'd have it sometime this week. But he said it's going to be a nominal cost for the program compared to what we're going to pay for this. And then there will be like an annual maintenance fee. For the neighborhood revitalization program, I think we pay $1,000 a year for the neighborhood, or for the maintenance fee and the updates and things like that for the Comtech program, because it's a special program.
Oh, okay.
That's outside of the normal realm. So I'm thinking maybe no more than $1,000 annual fee from them. I just don't know what the actual cost is to, but basically what he's done is he's already got the data set that he needs from their system to link it into ours. Now they also have a leave time management program, which this is a novel idea. The employees actually ask for time off, but through this program it requires the employees to ask for time off.
Submit their request.
Yes, and then the department head approve their time off.
Oh, right.
Instead of them just calling and
Being
saying,
gone.
I'm not going to work
Right.
today.
Then you got a paper trail too of what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this program does have that. And on the backside is about the Time Plus manager. They can also go down to even like the highway department if you wanted to. The program comes with all the nuts and bolts, but they could do job assignment type things, like where right now the highway department is writing time in, time out, and then they're writing what they're doing. Most of theirs says blading roads.
Is that in the software or like the app that you download? Like if you were doing it from an iPad, you could put in your location for the day, or whether you were.
He said it tracks it by jobs. So my assumption is like when they say they're blading territory, whatever, that they could clock in and say they're blading, and then if they ended up fixing something, they could change jobs.
I see. Yeah, here it says change job code.
Yes.
So yeah, that makes sense.
So he said some employers require that. You know, I can see where the highway department might find that beneficial, but I just don't know if we're to that point yet. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's like we get the time clock system in, and then.
I would do the time clock first without all this other stuff.
Yeah.
It's too much overwhelming to begin with.
But I think it's basically a selling point.
No, you would have
I
the
mean,
capability though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now the whole thing. So bottom line is, they can clock in. This information's come to you here, or to a payroll contact.
Okay.
They're doing our payroll now.
No, we would still do payroll.
Yeah.
This is what the gentleman said. He said they have a business of 500 and some people. He said it takes them, basically, he has so many hours after the time period ends to check his time for the previous time period to make sure everything's right, yet doesn't have any errors. Then he approves it. It goes to his supervisor. His supervisor then approves it. He said, now, for example, if one day I forgot to clock out at lunch, and when I came back in, I went to clock in, and it said, well, you didn't clock out before, then he gives an exception, and he sends his supervisor a note that said, I forgot to clock out for lunch. Here's the time that I went out. And he said, number one, it gives them communication. Gives them the supervisor the opportunity to communicate with the employee and vice versa. Because he said sometimes, like in businesses that's his size, sometimes they don't communicate at all. But it gives them a chance to communicate. Mm-hmm. But then the supervisor has to approve and enter the exception. So I'm assuming, like in the highway department, might you say that the secretary or
If it
or-
shows that they worked overnight, obviously it's just because they didn't clock out.
Yes.
So then you get to talk about that time and make a hand note. And then that would help the HR person as well, because when you do have anomalies, they're already accounted for. You don't have to
Yes.
figure out what that anomaly is every time.
And,
Right.
and that's what he said. So then at the end of that time period, then the supervisor looks at the time and has to approve the time to go on to us. And then once it's approved to get to payroll, then we do our part of it, and it creates the file that we then upload into Comtech, and then we push everything through. The
So you
only-
already have a pre-calculated number for every employee this way. And then you're just checking the math from there on. You're not recalculating what,
Right.
That skips a whole step.
If they all fill this out every day, that information comes to you immediately every day.
Their supervisor.
Their supervisor, so if it's like Lincoln Highway Department, it would come to their supervisor and within that for the week and then they'll dump it all to you once a week or once a month or something.
I take it that I have access to everything.
Yeah, you should have
But
access to that.
I should
Through the
double
main-
check. But I won't pull information until the end of that.
Well-
Then you download it
Well, and
from your
also, I
upload
think it'd be
from one to
good
the next,
if you
yeah.
did have access to it and you see that some employee isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, you could go as a supervisor and say, hey, employee A isn't clocking in correctly the last 2 days, you better fix this, right?
Yes.
That way you can have a little oversight too.
Yes, and you do a
Before
little
you get it all at the
disciplining.
end of the month and it's all a mess.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. No, I
And-
think it'd be good.
And then the employees aren't doing their time card, like say at the end of the week, trying to remember what they did for the week and when they took off. Now, with that being said, there are still some issues that we have with the estimating time. So I want you guys to kind of regurgitate this week, and I should have made copies of this for you guys each week. But we'll just look
That's
at the
okay.
month of April, for example. So technically, on the month of April, we have to have
There we go.
payroll to the bank 1.5 days ahead of time. So 1.5 days. So it has to be through the 26th. Let's say we were to implement this system. There's not enough time to pay through the 25th and get all the approval that needs to be done. So parts of me says what we need to do is move that cutoff period anyways, like we talked before. This gentleman said he works with governments. And I kind of liked his idea. I just don't know how capers will fly with it. But next month, for example, March 26th through April 25th is a large month. So we should pay out our employees 184 hours. Maybe this is the time to move that moving date forward. He said he just did a school district that did it over a 3-month period of time. They needed to move it up 3 days.
They did
So-
1 day at a time.
1 day each month. I think if we had 2 more days that we would be okay. The question I had is, would it be better to move a day and change pay date to the 1st of each month, or keep it on the last working day of the month? And I don't know how that would affect employees. It doesn't affect me at all because all my bills come due the 1st day of the month. I never rely on that check to drop in there. But some employees may have some of their bills coming due the last working day, in which it would be,
Yeah, but isn't it deposited on the last working day?
it is right
So
now.
that's pretty tight to have something coming out that day and going in that day.
When does the direct deposit go in now? End of the last day of the
The
year?
last
Goes
day.
the
Working
last-
day of the month?
Yes,
Yeah.
the last working day of the month. So it's something to think about. I had originally, Hannah and I were talking, like if we moved it up 2 days this month, that would have them being paid for 168 hours. This pay period right now is 160 hours. Last month it was 168. It's still on the shorter side of the pay periods, but
But it still closer to what the normal income is rather than leaving the 180, you said. 80 what?
184 is what's available this next month. And I have not talked to Capers. I started to call them today and then got a telephone call and then I forgot what I was doing. But I want to call Capers and see, because we have to certify those deadlines, so I don't know how hard that is to move those. But I just kind of want to throw that out there, because at some point in time we have to change something up, especially if we're
Yeah.
going to make this system work.
Yeah. I think we can.
But you need to know here within March, right, to get a discount here, right?
Yes. So ironically, apparently this guy's boss is a big March Madness guy. So during the month of March, he offers a 10% discount, and then on Cyber Monday only, a 10% discount. Those are the only 2 discounts that they have per year. So he said, if you're going to do it, Cyber Monday or the month of March, and if we want to wait a year, the month of March.
Yeah, I think we've been talking about this long enough. We can make a decision, and we know that this is what's going to go with the system that we have. We're not going to change Comtech. I mean, you're integrated into that system. We've been using it for how long? We have good, reliable service calls on them. So I think we need to move forward with that. I think we just need to give you the authority to move forward with that.
This company's gonna do all the hardware installation everywhere and test the system out, make sure it all works fine and all that.
It comes with hours, but I take it that it's just a plug in, and then somebody, communicates with them.
Yeah, they have to set up this
'Cause they're
hardware and all
actually
these
from
sites
Texas.
we're
Where do
talking.
you want to put
And
the
then they
lights?
better make sure it works, so
Yeah.
it talks to you,
I think some of it's we're going to
It always
be doing
seems
our own
simpler.
labor.
Believe me, I've worked computer crap 20 years, and believe me, you always think it's simpler until you do it. Then there's a lot more stuff that blows up and doesn't work.
Well,
Troubleshooting.
in Comtech, they suggested that we do a side-by-side where we do time clocks, but we also do manual. But this guy said that might really confuse the employees totally. But he said he could understand where, maybe we give them the hours and they import it in and we...
And we want to make sure it works, and the first month or two, you're gonna have bugs in it.
Yeah.
Where
Well,
it won't work.
And that's what Sean wants to get. He wants to do bugs before the new person gets in, because he said it's harder to learn a system if you have nothing but problems the first day you start.
Sure, you're going to initially.
So he said, I'd rather you deal with all the problems than to have the employee.
But I still think it's good timing because it's new to everyone. So it's not like you have a new person learning something new that's seasoned to everyone else. I think that's good timing for everything. Let's move forward. Where do you want to put it in the courthouse?
We were thinking it needs to have a power outlet and it needs to have connection to either Wi-Fi or an Ethernet line. We were thinking by the back door, by where the water fountain is at. Just hang it on the wall, and the picture of it is.
I saw it.
Yeah, as big as it is. So.
Yeah, that's not bad.
And it mounts. I will have to go and look at each of the departments and figure out where they could have access. There is an additional charge if we do power by Ethernet, meaning that you plug in the Ethernet cord and it draws power. There's a $280 connection to there. But he said some businesses, they don't want to call an electrician. So he said if there is not a power outlet near the best place, then he said that's an option that they can do, but it's another $280 per unit. But I think
Total for everything?
per unit for the power by over Ethernet. PoE is what they call it, power over Ethernet. But I think everywhere we go, we can surely find a place where it has a power unit. So the question that I have is do you guys want to do a time clock at the landfill, or do you want to do the mobile?
I think we should do the iPad. I mean, let's use those things.
The mobile.
We are paying good money.
The mobile,
Okay.
because, time clock, it costs a lot more, right? And there
Yeah.
are only several employees out there, and, yeah, it's just simpler with mobile. They got iPads, right?
They have one iPad, so they'll just have to
I-
bring it out and have it in the
Yeah,
room.
they don't have, yeah, that's my opinion.
In your motor graders and outlying places have iPads. The only thing is with that is we probably would have to load it on each iPad. So then that way, if employee A is gone, they can't say, oh, well, I didn't want to turn on employee A's
The
iPad.
app, you gotta install the app on each one. That shouldn't be that much, is it?
No.
I would do that, yeah.
Okay. And the 5 locations that we have, is that okay?
Sounds good to me.
You
Okay.
gotta do sheriff's department, highway department, here, and,
Ambulance shed,
EMS and,
health department.
health. That the hospital's on their own, right there.
Yeah, they're not part of us. And the dedicated service support hours, the 20, that is what they think that it will take to get us up and going. And then after that, once we get up and going, they give us like a 3-month buffer. Then it takes over on this annual support.
Are they gonna do a training session with the, department heads and employees on how to run this thing?
I don't know, but I can ask that question.
Cause somebody needs to tell them how to run it. Cause you can't just set it up there and say, use this time clock. They'll go, what the hell's that? Right? So,
Scan your
so we better have a little
pupils,
educational,
thumbprints.
we should have an educational session, how to use a time clock, and,
What's proper procedure? Yep.
Well, this is electronic too. It's not punching. The
Right.
old-
No.
It ain't the old card where you punch the deal.
No.
They still got that at the post
They,
office.
they will poke in their code,
Yeah, okay.
and that.
We should have a
pokes
little
them
You gotta
training
get an
session.
employee
It
ID
should,
number.
obviously, it shouldn't be that complicated, but still, they should train everyone how to do it and ask them if that goes with it.
Yep.
Because that may be another, who knows what. So, okay.
Okay, that's a good question, because I kind of,
You got to teach them how to run this stuff and correctly run it.
So,
so I will ask about installation and training.
yeah, and I think we need to not have to have discussions about it because today is the 11th. So I'm just going, I think we need to appoint you to implement it. Does that sound okay to you, Dawn?
Yes, that's fine.
Should we
I'm,
vote on it?
yeah, I'll make a motion, or if someone else wants to make the motion. I
You
think
can. You know how to do it. So.
I move to appoint county clerk to implement the time clock plus system with Comtech, including purchases and coordination and logistics.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor for this system that Dawn found that is going to be able to work with our current system that we have called Comtech. Is there any further discussion? If not, those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed.
Don, just for curiosity's sake, how did you hear about this Time Clock Plus company?
Well, ironically, Riley County has this, which is
Okay.
also linked with Comtech. However, since talking with Sean a little bit more, Riley County has gone to a different payroll system and time clock system since we talked the last time. But he said now they're working on importing all the ledger details. So it is possible to do it. It's just that it doesn't flow as easily. So he said, as I was visiting with him some more, he says, you know, that's funny that he says, I told you that, and he said, I really wasn't thinking in the long run that they had already switched and did something different. But I still think that we can make this work, and I don't know, Riley County is a lot bigger county, so I could see where they might have a lot more. And it sounds like we're going to be very easy because most of our employees get paid out of the same fund. Very, very rarely do they get paid out of multiple funds. And he said that's where it gets more complicated at.
Right, how do you divide
Getting
up hours for, and then
jobs.
make them one check out of, separate
Yeah.
funds?
So, and I told him, I said that the majority of us now, like right now, Hannah, if she works the election, we take her time for overtime out of the election. But I said I can bill just like I'm doing ambulance. We could just bill that out
Yeah,
and be done.
like
with it.
interdepartmental billing kind of concept. Mhm.
So,
Okay. Do we have any more discussion about what we want to do with the commission room? You are going to follow through and see if they will make us a tabletop,
I will do that.
and and then we need to remove the line that they had put in for a separate phone line, and do we need to run any kind of?
I think like right now the telephone I'm gonna just not do. Okay, let's talk about the telephone system for a little bit because Hannah just told me the bill went up again to like $76 per line. So
Per line in the courthouse.
per line for each county, and I think we have 30 some lines. So, but that's just the base charge. So we had the department heads meet, and we had Wilson Communications, Eagle Communications, and the phone connection come and visit with them about what is our needs and what do we want to do. Next Tech has the ability of doing everything seems like is over the internet. Now, Eagle was originally just proposing bringing in, and you have to excuse me because I'm going to sound completely stupid here, but bringing in some kind of thing that they would take over the telephone lines and they would install it, and I think they call it a PCI. And then our phone system will connect to that PCI and network out. The only problem is that only occurs here. And the cost of it was like $399, and originally they said it would be so much per line. that Robert told me it'd be just $399. So I think what we're gonna do is just stay with the phone system that we have currently. Even though if we did over the internet, we could probably have even more savings. But it just seems like all of us are a little bit hesitant about what we want to do. So they could bring that in, let's say tomorrow, install it, the phone connection will come out. There will be some requirement for some new equipment because it's different technology. But our phone system itself will probably last another 100 years. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the lines to it that will start deteriorating before the phone system itself. So he wants to know, the phone connection guy, exactly what Robert is suggesting. Exactly what the cost is going to be, because he said he knows that another county got it for $350, and he's going to hold Eagle to that because he knows what their pricing is. They originally had said $250 plus $35 per line, but then Robert was saying no, just the $399, and so I need to get it in writing. I sent him an email today. Then, like the recycling center, we just need to have them take over the AT&T line. And actually, the recycling center they can't do because they don't have internet. Any place that has internet, they can take over the line. Because they're basically going to go in over the internet part of it. So, the landfill will become an issue. The recycling center is an issue. The health department has NCKCN right now. Once they go to Eagle, then they can go over the internet and do Eagle telephone. The highway department has NCKCN, and then they're in the same boat, if I understand them correctly. The sheriff's department has Eagle already, so they could bring in their piece and they'll connect it to the phone system. So we just have to figure out where we're going. And then those departments, like the recycling center, I don't think they need a phone, so I think we'd be okay just to shut it off completely. The landfill, we're going to have to do something. They suggested maybe us put a cell phone out there, port the telephone number to a cell phone, which is a possibility. So they also have what they call these little home devices that you can port the number into, and it just works in all of your telephone jacks. Now, it wouldn't work here because we have a phone system, but out there they don't have. So it basically plugs in and it works their telephones just like it is now. It's just a matter of, do we do that through Eagle? Do we do that through Nextech? Do we do that through Verizon? So, I don't know.
So do you just need to get back to us with?
Yes, with a price and a plan of attack.
Okay.
Because we got to get off of AT&T. I don't know how to make it happen everywhere.
Okay.
And I don't know, they sound like they can't do it if it's NCKCN because that's a wireless, so they can't take over the phone. But I know Leon wanted me to give him Ladonna's information, which I'll do that, so you can talk to her a little bit more because she has a unique situation. Her phone system is starting to fail, and the people that they bought it through, I guess they can't get parts for anymore. So.
Just out of curiosity, to change the subject though, did you get any feedback from the newspaper article on?
Well, yeah, I have. Have you got any input here from the newspaper article?
I just had, it was awful small and they couldn't read it, and could I forward them the email, or the original? And then one person asked if I'd print it, but that was only, I think I printed 2 in.
I saw that too. It looked very small in the Lincoln paper. I didn't realize that when we had talked about, because in Sylvan's paper it was huge. I mean, it was like a full page.
I know the Sylvan paper told me that the font size was, the font choice was not newspaper friendly. And so she was struggling, and I said, well, I can change the font, but she was afraid that that would change it from.
Like a format, yeah.
Yeah, and so I said, okay.
It was okay.
Lincoln, I think, just naturally has a smaller print, but.
I have to get your reading glasses out.
Well, I mean, if it probes enough curiosity, they'll call to ask questions or get some kind of more information. But I think it's a good start.
Well, I had some input. People said they're glad we did that because now,
It's at least being addressed.
well,
I think
they
for
know
a while there was nothing
where we're
said.
at here. But people didn't know what was going on, and that's, you know, when you don't know what's going on, then at least we said where we're at, what we're doing,
Right.
and that at least they got an issue and kind of a feeling of where we're what we're doing.
Anything else that you need from us today, John?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, thank you for all the information you put together for us.
Yeah.
I will adjourn the meeting until next Monday, March 18th, 10 a.m. in the basement meeting room of the courthouse.
This year's, Alexis,
Yes.
you want this?